Hello, everyone. I'm John Beckman from the StubHub Center and LA Velo Sports Center in Carson, California, here for the final session of the 2017 UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. And we have several events online today, a lot of them being tandem sprints, and the tandem sprints for blind athletes with a sighted driver, about 300 to 350 pounds of athletes and machine going over 40 miles per hour around this 250-meter velodrome. And we'll be getting underway with that in just a couple of minutes. Let's talk about paracycling for a moment. For one thing, of course, the tandems, we've got the blind athletes, a blind stoker on the back of a tandem with a sighted pilot. Some of those sighted pilots are elite, internationally renowned elite cyclists on their own. We will also be seeing riders with certain disabilities in their body today, with that classification ranging from C5, which is minimal disability, perhaps some brain trauma allowing or causing a certain loss of coordination, all the way to C1, where there may be amputations. And of course, going from C5 to C1, the disabilities become a little bit greater. And let's talk about these. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now, we're going to go into a little explanation of what we're about to see with the tandems, the match sprints.
The sprint is a classic short-distance event in which two riders cover 3 laps of the track. Qualification consists of flying start 200 meters time trial. The time trial is followed by knockout heats, fastest versus slowest. From the quarterfinals, the riders race best of 3 heats. Sprint racing is all about the tactics. Riders will sometimes come to a standstill in an effort to make their opponent take the lead, which is the least advantageous position before the final sprint to the finish.
And as our tape announcer explained, the fastest qualifier rides against the 4th fastest. And then we go from the quarterfinals, that's in the quarterfinals, then the winners go on to the semifinals. This is the final 4, and we'll have 2 pairs of tandems out here. This first one, Australia, with Jessica Gallagher as our driver, and Stephanie Prixa, that is. And they are coming out second onto the track. Their opponents from Great Britain, Sophie Thornhill, silver medalist last year in this, and her new partner Karina Hall. And something to note about the British riders is they are changing their pairings this year, so and as Australia is doing. So we've got some drivers that have some experience out here with a new stoker on the back. Up next will be Great Britain with Alison Patrick and Helen Scott, followed by Great Britain's Aileen McGlynn and Louise Haston. So a lot of Great Britain success, and they have had success in previous World Championships as well. We'll talk about that in just a little while. 6 laps, first rider or first bike across the line without breaking any rules will be the winner. But that doesn't put you on to the finals right away. You've got to beat your opponent twice. So this is a best of 3 competition in the semifinals and the finals. No matter what the outcome here in this particular race, we'll see these riders again out here. And again, Great Britain at the front. Sophie Thornhill, silver medalist last year, with Helen Scott, who was riding actually in the next heats. And we've got, I believe, 4 laps remaining right now. You see that a great deal of caution used in match sprinting. You don't want to just take off from the gun and go as fast as you can because of the aerodynamic effects of cycling, going 30 to 40 miles per hour. Your opponents will just tuck in right behind you, draft, save about 30%, use about 30% less energy than the riders going fast at the front. The riders at the front would soon get very tired, and the opponents from behind would easily pop around. So the opening stages of a match sprint, even toward the last lap or 2, are often evaluating the competition, looking at their pedal RPMs. Are they using a big gear? These are single speed track bikes, so they have just 1 gear on them. They're chosen by bolting sprockets on before the race. And so are they using a big gear, a small gear? Are they going to have a high top end speed, or will they be able to accelerate rapidly? These are things you've got to consider in match sprints. And right now, Great Britain, Thornhill, and Hall deciding to match the pickup of the pace that the Australians, Gallagher and Preeksa, are setting. So it looks like Great Britain wants to stay at the front and challenge the Australians to try to come all the way around the top. And you see the Australians with a lot more acceleration. They're coming around the outside now, but now things are evening up. Great Britain evening things up on the inside. The Australians might have a little bit more speed, but a longer line, and it is going to be Great Britain on the inside. Sophie Thornhill, last year's silver medalist and world champion with Helen Scott in 2015. And she is riding with Corinna Hall, and Thornhill and Hall have one ride over Australia, and we will see this pairing again in just a little while. We'll talk about how these riders qualified this morning. It was 200 meters, which is about 4/5 of a lap out here, by themselves on the fly against the clock. And Australia qualified in 11.3 seconds for 200 meters. That is 64 kilometers per hour. Great Britain actually didn't qualify as quickly. They were 0.3 of a second back at 11.65, or only 62 kilometers per hour. But as you saw there, Great Britain got the front. They controlled the pace, challenged Australia to come around, and Australia couldn't quite get their timing right. So a lot of tactics involved in the match sprint. In my years of cycling, people have said, oh, what is that race where they go really slow and then they go really fast? And this is it. The slowest and the fastest event in track cycling. Coming up will be Great Britain. Great Britain, Alison Patrick, the driver, with Helen Scott. Again, Helen Scott used to be paired up with driver Sophie Thornhill. They had a silver medal last year in a world championship in this event, and a gold medal in 2015. Now Helen Scott on back, teamed up with Alison Patrick. And they are paired up against their friends from Great Britain, their teammates Aileen McGlynn driving and Louise Haston. So team number 94, since we've got identical uniforms here, team number 94, and we'll see if we can figure out who is whom here. Is Patrick and Scott. Scott, that former world champion, qualified at 11.5 seconds, or 62.5 kilometers an hour. Almost as fast as the pairing, that first pairing that we saw just a few minutes ago. And then Aileen McGlynn and Louise Haston qualified at 11.54, just 3/100ths of a second apart. And that is the interesting thing about the qualifying and quarterfinal process, is that the fastest qualifier rides against the least fast, or if you can call it slowest qualifier. And so that sets up a bracket in which you are continually racing against somebody who's either faster or slower than you were. If you qualify fastest, you ride against somebody who is a lot slower. If you qualify somewhere in the middle, you're riding against somebody who is very comparable to yourself in speed. And we see that here with just 1/100th of a second between the 200-meter qualifying times. Great Britain number 94, Patrick and Scott, are the riders at the front. We see this 45-degree banking of this velodrome, too steep for a bike going very slow to stay up on it. You've got to go really 12 to 15 miles per hour to be safe, to have just enough centrifugal force to stay up on there. And in the early stages, again, try to conserve energy. Both these teams choosing to stay just on the apron. And after a while, I think the rules stipulate that they're going to have to stay on up there. But now, from the very bottom up along the rail. And I can tell you, the first time you ever do this on a track bike is scary and exhilarating. It's a thrill ride. Just a few laps to go. And speaking of thrill ride too, the speeds again, 62 to 64 kilometers per hour sometimes, at least in the time trials. Got a lot of horsepower with two engines on one carbon fiber bike. Looks like both teams out here using metal rims. We're halfway through here, 3 laps to go, and things starting to pick up a little bit. Notice the drivers looking back, the sighted drivers looking back at the opponent. In a match sprint, if you were not looking behind you, your opponent could dive down that 45-degree banking, be up to speed, and be going by you before you know what hits you. So always looking back. I'm sure now that the blind stokers on the back are listening as well. But as they get going, of course, the sound of the wind going over them now, well over 40 kilometers an hour as they go past at the bell. 1 lap to go. Still Patrick with Scott leading McGlynn and Haston, both teams from Great Britain. Very straightforward. And it is not going to be the race for McGlynn and Haston as Patrick and Scott come across the line. The 200-meter time, by the way, on that was just under 12.1 seconds. So about 3/4 of a second slower than their time trial times, as these races tend to be very tactical. You don't want to be at the front and wind things up again real fast, real soon. Wear yourself out there in the wind while your opponent drafts behind you and slingshots around. So things typically careful in the early stages. And we go on to the men next. And with the men, a similar situation with Great Britain having 2 teams in the semifinals. One of the teams here, team number 3, James Ball and Matthew Rotherham. They qualified in 10.05 seconds. That is 71.7 kilometers an hour. They're sitting just in front of their opponents from the Russian Federation, Leonid Tyutin and Artur Spirin. Tyutin and Spirin qualified at 10.8 seconds, so a big difference here. The faster qualifiers, Great Britain team number 3 at 10.05, and 3/4 of a second behind them was this Russian Federation team. 71.7 kilometers an hour versus 66.6 kilometers an hour. That is the difference of a decent walking pace, a visible difference in speed. And so for the Russians here, Leonid Tyutin and Artur Spirin, it is going to be a matter of tactics. Either psychological, pushing the Brits, the British riders from the back, by riding aggressively toward them and perhaps making the British riders lead them out and get them to go fast and wear themselves out early. Or perhaps that surprise attack down the track when the British riders are not looking behind them. Or perhaps our Russian Federation riders would like to eventually get in front of the British riders, and that is when things get interesting. When the lead rider actually uses the bike and his body to hold his opponent high on the track and hold him up there contained, going around the long way until the last moment, and then dive down the banking. You get about a half a second jump on your opponent that way, because your opponent then has that half a second or so reaction time. But so far the Russians content to sit back, watch the British. Now riders riding single bikes. There's one rider on a bike. A match sprint out here on this 250-meter velodrome is 3 laps. But tandems take a little bit to get moving. Their maneuvering is a little more ponderous, so they give it a 6-lap event. And you see the Russians going up and down the track. They gained a little bit of altitude. Now they're using that banking to come down over the top. And we will see now if they try to control the speed of the sprint. They know that the British are about 3/4 of a second faster than they are over the last 4/5 of a lap. And so if they can keep the speed lower and perhaps simply out-accelerate the British to the finish line, they could win this race. Match sprints are so much about the tactics you use and your relationship with your opponent, your position relative to your opponent when this all-out sprint to the line begins. And there at the bell, the Russians have the British on the outside, and still not enough power as the British riders coming over the top. No problem whatsoever in our top qualifiers. James Ball, Matthew Rotherham take ride number 1 out of this best-of-3 series. 200-meter time of 10.8 seconds. And that's about the qualifying time of the Russians, Teuton and Spirin. About 3/4 of a second slower than what Great Britain is capable of in an all-out sprint. And so team number 3, Great Britain, 1 ride down and another ride to go as the Russian Federation will come back against them to try to even the score. A lot of power in that British team, and the British teams, the elite teams and the para teams, known for guys with big legs and a lot of strength, and you see it there in the driver, James Ball. As we go to another team from Great Britain now in our other semi-final pairing, Neil Fackey and Craig McLean. Team number 4. They qualified in 10.2 seconds, or a little over 70 kilometers an hour. They are up against Malaysia. And Rizan Mohammed Afiq Afifi driving, and Rasul Mohammed Karul Atta as the stoker. And they qualified about less than half a second behind Team 4 at just under 10.6 seconds, 68 kilometers an hour. So 68 kilometers an hour was the qualifying speed for the Malaysians, 70.5 kilometers an hour, the qualifying speed for Great Britain team number 4. And something I learned this morning was that being an American, I'm not quite familiar with the entire workings of the former British Empire, but Malaysia is a Commonwealth team, as are New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, and as such, they are here trying to qualify for the Commonwealth Games, as are the British and the Australian riders. And according to their results here at the World Championships, they garner world ranking points, and the top world ranking teams will qualify for the Commonwealth Games. And it's just not something that you hear of too much, where the top race in the world is qualifying you for something a little more quote-unquote local. But this race not only meaningful for the title of world champion or a World Championships medal, but also important in order to gain world ranking points to qualify for the Commonwealth Games. This year, and I don't have the location of those games, but well, in various parts of the world, of course, throughout the years. At one point, the sun never set on the British Empire. We'll be coming up on team sprint finals here momentarily. A very just a fascinating precision 3-rider team event. But right now, utter concentration with the Malaysians there in the distinctive yellow jerseys. Rizan and Mohammed Karul Agda listening and watching from the front, often considered a disadvantage to be at the front in a match sprint. You know, the only time it really matters to be in the front is at the finish line. So guys from Malaysia having to look back. If this team of Fackey and McLean are anything like the team of Ball and Rotherham that rode against the Russian Federation in the previous heat, They've got a lot of power, a lot of acceleration, and great top-end speed. So these guys from Malaysia qualifying about 3 or 4 tenths of a second slower than the British. Staying at the front, going to make the British perhaps go around the long way. And look at this, the Malaysians coming up out of the sprinter's lane a bit, trying to make these British guys go a long way around. At the bell, the British using that power, and you can see the success of the British cycling program. In elite and para competition, they have developed the most powerful riders in the world consistently, and it shows up here with another Great Britain team, 10.999, just under 11 seconds for the final 200 meters, and that is accelerating during that time. Not up to top speed at 200 meters to go, but still accelerating. 8 tenths of a second off of their qualifying time, but again, we don't expect to see qualifying times in match sprints. About 11 seconds, just about 65 kilometers per hour for Neil Fackie and Craig McLean as they simply overpower Malaysia. And we prepare now for the 3-lap team sprint final. We'll be back to our match sprints on the tandems in just a little while. They will get their rest between races while we have 2 rides for the medals in team sprint. And you are watching the 2017 UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. The LA Bell Center, StubHub Center in Carson, California, Los Angeles Basin. Ironically enough, here in sunny Southern California, we've got the only permanent indoor bicycle racing track in the United States. So we set up for the 2 teams competing for bronze and 4th place. And our T2 teams will be lined up on opposite sides of the track. The Russian team lining up on the home straight. We call it the home straight. They qualified 3rd fastest in our qualifying rides this morning, and so they will be riding for 3rd and 4th. Qualified 3rd fastest at 52.45 seconds for 3 laps. Czech Republic qualified 4th at 55.35 seconds, so 1/10 of a second faster than Russia. The fun thing about the team sprint is that only one rider has to go the entire distance. This is kind of like a rocket launch when you have the first stage, that booster stage, getting everything up to speed and up to altitude, and then it launches succeeding parts of the rocket until you're finally into orbit, lightening the load as you go. Here we will have one rider starting. The other riders want to get right on his wheel, get into that draft, be protected from the wind by using that first rider as a wind block, and bide their time until it is their time to break through the wind for their opponents, for their teammates, excuse me. So a lot of precision. The team has got to get together quickly. There's no time to lose in getting coordinated out there. You've got to get together quickly. It's only a 3-lap race. And basically in these finals, the first team to finish will be the winner. First rider is pulling up and away, and they have just about 15 meters in which to do that. If they pull off too soon or too late, the team is disqualified. The ride is for nothing. And we see now our Czech Republic, Ivo Koblasa, Jiří Ježek, and Jiří Buska, the team that started there. We are down to the final rider. And somebody's going to have a bronze medal here in just a second. And it looks like Russia makes it plain at 52.345, 52.345, a tenth of a second faster than their qualifying ride this morning. And we'll have a time for Czech Republic here in a moment. I think it was a 54 and change. Well, you saw that Russian Federation was Sergei Butukov, Sergei Pudov, and Alexei Obedinov finishing first. And Butukov, the only rider returning from to World Championship competition from last year, where the team he was on with two other riders finished fifth. So he moves up to a bronze medal this year. Fourth place for the Czech Republic of Ivo Koblasa, Jiří Ježek, and Jiří Buska. And we'll go on to the final for gold and silver now between the United States on the home straight, qualifying fastest this morning at 51.22 seconds. That's over 53, or just about 53 kilometers an hour. They were fourth place last year with all of these riders: Jason Kimball, number 50, Joseph Berenier, number 49, and Christopher Murphy, number 86. Spain on the back straight, qualifying second this morning at just under 52 seconds, just about 52 kilometers per hour. Two riders that were on this team last year earned a bronze medal in the World Championships. They were held in Italy, and that's Amador Granados Alcorta and Eduardo Santos Asensio, number 43 and 44 respectively. New here for 2017 with him is Pablo Jaramillo Gallardo. And we are still getting ready back on the back straight. The Spaniards getting up onto the line now, on their way up there. We see the mechanical starting gate. The first rider in each team is in a mechanical starting gate, and that is tied directly to the timing system. You hear the countdown timer with the low tone beeps and the fifth high tone beep. When that fifth high tone beep is sounded, the timing starts, and that mechanical starting block releases the first rider. The other riders being held up by International Cyclist Union commissars. 3 laps to gold or to silver. And again, you don't have any time to discuss the start. You've got to get things into place. Jason Kimball leading out the United States. Alcorta, followed by Asensio. And those two riders are off. Joseph Berenier taking over the United States now. Eduardo Santos Asensio for Spain. Qualifying times were 0.7 of a second apart. You know, you can always change things by having a better second ride. Still pretty close here. The United States with a bit of a lead. The United States fourth place last year are world champions this year unofficially at 50.654 seconds, over half a second faster than qualifying. Spain at 52.8, I believe it was, and my displays are going away pretty quickly here, but a 1.5 to 2 seconds difference. And so silver medal for Spain this year, moving up from a bronze last year. And we'll talk a little bit about more now as we look at one of our American riders. Talk a little bit more about the C1 through C5 classifications. Again, this is a combined team time trial or team sprint where there are certain numbers of points awarded or a certain number of points assigned to certain levels of disability. You can have any more than 6 points worth of ability on the start line. And so typically a combination of riders between C5, the least disabled, and C1, where riders are missing a limb or have a greater degree of brain trauma, are on the line together. This can also include women, and some of the teams have had women. I think, well, everybody that qualified out here today were all men's teams, but varying degrees of disability. And that concludes our finals for the mixed team sprint. We'll be going back to our tandem sprints with the women. Second ride in the best of 3 series. The bronze and 4th place, and for the gold and silver. Again, getting back to our women's tandem sprints. We have semi-final heat. Number 1, defending world champion Jessica Gallagher, number 90. And Stephanie Prieksa, Stoker. These are new partners this year for our British teams and Australian teams. Jessica Gallagher of Australia with Stephanie Prieksa, our defending champions. Great Britain, Sophie Thornhill, silver medalist last year. It's Jessica Gallagher, so kind of a re-ride, a rematch in a way between our 2 drivers. Thornhill of Great Britain with Karina Hall, her new partner, won the first race. Now, between races, sometimes the riders will, or mechanics actually in this case, will work on the bikes, change the gearing sometimes. If they say, well, we're not getting quite enough top speed, we need more top speed, they will put a bigger gear on. That means typically that big sprocket that is underneath the stoker on the right side of the bike, that big sprocket back there could be replaced with a bigger one or a slightly smaller one if you want an easier gear for better acceleration. But the gear is very important. But on a track bike, a track racing bike, there are no multiple gears. The bikes do not coast. There's not a little clicking freewheel back there. As long as the wheel's turning, those pedals are going around. And there are no brakes, which makes a lot of fun. There's not much out here to stop for. But these are the simplest incarnation of a bicycle, a chain-driven bicycle. And a lot of the original chain-driven bicycles, 100 years ago approximately, they were driven by chain, they did not coast, they had no brakes. And we're still with them, except these are made out of carbon fiber and titanium, are aerodynamically designed. They are also very stiff when you've got a combination of 300 pounds or more of riders standing up accelerating on them. They are built very strong, engineered very finely. We notice that both teams are riding a solid-looking disc wheel on the back. That is a foam, kind of a hard styrofoam core with carbon fiber. A disc of carbon fiber on each side. And that cuts down on wind resistance. Spokes whirring around in a wheel create a lot of wind resistance, and so you take away some of those spokes. Now the British teams have elected to go with what look like aluminum wheels out there with spokes, perhaps for strength, as tandem bicycles on a tight turned 250-meter track are under tremendous stress. There's a multiple spoke carbon fiber wheel on the front of the Australians. Australians really want to win this one. Got to win this one if they want to go to the gold medal final. If the British win this one again, then it's off the gold medal final for them because they've won 1 race already. The Aussies are in trouble, and it looks like they're going to save their energy for a 3rd and 4th place final. The Aussies giving up gold this year. Jessica Gallagher, no repeat on the gold, but a possibility of moving up to gold for Sophie Thornhill of Great Britain on the front of that winning tandem. 200-meter time, 11:98, just under 12 seconds, and it is Great Britain, Thornhill and Hall, 2 rides in a row over Australia. So they will go on to the final, and you can see just the power of the British athletes, and the Australians knew they were beat. Both of these teams are new pairings, Gallagher of Australia, last year's gold medalist in the World Championships. Thornhill of Great Britain on the front of that Great Britain bike, last year's silver medalist. A bit of a re-ride there, but New Stokers and Great Britain is off to the final. Against whom? Well, that may be decided here in this next ride. In heat number 2, we've got Great Britain, who won the first ride. It's Alison Patrick and Helen Scott. Helen Scott, the stoker, rider on the back. And Scott was teamed up with Sophie Thornhill when they won that silver in 2016 and gold in 2015. Now Scott riding with a new driver, Alison Patrick, and I spoke with the manager of the British team. He said, well, we just decided to mix it up a little bit, try different combinations. And so they are experimenting here at none other than the World Championships. And they are team number 94, and again, Great Britain, their opponents, team number 93. Aileen McGlynn and Louise Haston, whom I don't see previous results for in recent World Championship or Olympic competition. Doesn't mean that they aren't accomplished nationally and internationally, but we know that Helen Scott, the stoker on the number 94 bike, was world champion along with Sophie Thornhill on the previous heat. They were world champions in 2015, silver medalist in 2016. Helen Scott, 94, on the back of the bike with a new driver, Alison Patrick. So Team 94, the winner of the first ride. Team 93, McGlynn and Haston, want to win this one to tie it up and force it to a tiebreaker. Third ride a little later on in the program. And you wonder what happens to people who lose their quarterfinals, who never make it into the semifinals. Well, they're coming up next in a one-ride competition for 7th and 8th place and 5th and 6th place. And then if any third rides are necessary here for these semifinalists, we'll have that third ride before going on to the next ride for 5th and 6th place for the men. So the women will be competing for 7th and 8th and 5th and 6th shortly after this ride here. But right now, who is going to face team number 95 Great Britain, Thornhill and Hall, in the final for gold and silver? Will it be team number 94 out here right now, who won the first ride, or will it be team number 93? If 93 wants to go on to that gold medal final, they're going to have to win this one to tie it up and then win the tie-breaking ride. 93 at the front, McGlynn and Haston. Riders watching and listening over their shoulders for their opponents. A little bit of a whir of the chain, some tire noise, perhaps breathing. You hear where they are. McGlynn, the driver, having to look back over her shoulder past Haston. You don't want that other team taking you by surprise. It's amazing how much speed you can get diving down this 45-degree bank underneath your opponent. Go right past them, and if they're not looking back, you're up to speed before they know what hit them. So gradually winding it up is team number 93. And you see 94 going for altitude, coming back down, going to take a shot off of him here at the bell. 1 lap to go, 94. Patrick and Scott trying to get a little bit of speed, a little bit of momentum to come around, and it is going to be a tough job. If you don't get around right about now, then you've got that long outside line through the turn, and if 93 can keep their legs under them, they could do it. And a very close one there. I believe it was 94 coming around the outside. And boy, it is indeed too close to call. We're going to wait to see if to see who won that one. Got to be careful here. Wait for the officials.
They're showing right now that it's going to be a second ride for Alison Patrick and Helen Scott.
It looks like we've got a tie game with Team 93 holding them off, barely holding off Team 94. 93 docked that inside line. And we will see Great Britain's Aileen McGlynn with Louise Haston still alive here, and a shot at getting into that gold medal final. They will face Allison Patrick and Helen Scott one more time to see who goes on to that final for gold and silver against their Great British teammates, Thornhill and Hall. The losers, by the way, of each of these pairings will go on to face each other for bronze medal and 4th place in our finals later this afternoon. And so back to the men. When we last tuned in, it was Great Britain, James Ball with Matthew Rotherham coming over the top of the Russian Federation bike, Leonid Tutin and Artur Spirin. So Great Britain Great Britain over the top of the Russian Federation in 10.8 seconds. About 70 kilometers an hour. 68 kilometers an hour. The Russian Federation had drawn the second starting position in the first ride. They draw for positions before. Who's going to start this thing? Who's going to follow? If you draw the starting position, you've got to keep it rolling first a lap or so. And which sounds interesting. You have to keep it rolling. Well, yes, sometimes on these fixed gear track bikes, in order to force an opponent in front, a bike will come to a standstill. Not so much in the tandems. Takes a huge amount of coordination. There are a few teams in the world that can do it, but typically on the singles bikes, though, you will sometimes see what is called the track stand, where they want to be able to keep an eye on their opponent so much, or they want their opponent to lead them out into the sprint so badly that they will bring the bike to a stop and balance. Force their opponent in front of them. Not so much something you do on a tandem, but a very cautious, very slow pace being held right now. Russian Federation started with the lead, but decided to give that up and have let Great Britain come to the front, following them fairly closely. Underneath again. A rider, a pilot will evaluate and reevaluate a situation sometimes and decide to come back or go to the front. The British want the front. They won the first ride coming over the top, coming from behind the Russians. They qualified almost 8/10 of a second faster than the Russians, and I think what they want to do here is minimize their exertion, just control the ride. They've got to be confident that they can take this one 2 in a row and go on to the gold medal final against the winner of the next pairing. Just a matter of not having to push it all the way over the hump going around the Russians, but just keeping the low line now, more direct line to the finish. And at the bell, Great Britain with a decisive advantage over the Russian Federation. And it is James Ball, Matthew Rotherham, leading it out. 200-meter time of 10.7. A little bit faster, actually, than their winning time in the first ride, but it's all just statistical at this point. Kind of fun to see how fast they're going, about 66 kilometers an hour. For James Ball, Matthew Rotherham on to the final, the gold medal final against the winner of the next pairing. The Russian Federation will ride for bronze. Who will they ride against? Well, we've got Great Britain team number 4. That Great Britain team, Facky and McLean, with a power similar to what you're seeing right here with Ball and Rotherham in his replay. See the hips of ball gets into it. Whole body getting into it. Boom. You can almost hear it out there. And the excitement of Matthew Rotherham as they come across the line. So more action here coming up. Great Britain, team number 4, Neil Fackey with Craig McLean. They won the first ride over Malaysia. Malaysia manned by Rizan Mohammad Afiq Afifi and Rasul Mohammad Karul Adha. Qualifying just 0.3 of a second apart, so in an uninterrupted flying time trial on this track, these two teams have about the same amount of strength. What it may come down to is who's got better acceleration, who has better control over the other team. Great Britain has a lot of acceleration on a good kick at the end as they came over the top of Malaysia. They came around the outside, going the long way to win ride number 1 in 11 seconds, just under 11 seconds. In the first ride, Malaysia had drawn the lead, and so in the second ride, Malaysia will leave the line. They line up higher and leave the start line just a moment after the British team. Slowest race in cycling and the fastest race in cycling. In order to get there to the fastest, you've got to conserve energy. You've got to watch your opponent. A lot of people call this a game of cat and mouse, and indeed it is. You game theorists out there will look at perhaps the psychological aspects of how might intimidate another team. You may make another team think that you're going to make a move. Right now, patience is the name of the game. As the Malaysians content to not step on the gas and waste energy early on. They've got their eyes on the British. Very content here just to keep it at low speed. Sometimes we'll have a race go like this almost to the final lap and then just a contest of acceleration. You have perhaps a smaller gear the mechanic has put on the bike, an easier gear to push, which will be easier to accelerate in a very short sprint, just a lap or lap and a half for these tandems. To out-accelerate your opponent, they never get a chance to come around you. Sometimes that is reflected in the 200-meter times that we see. We've recorded in these men's finals 200-meter times of 10.8, 10.7, and for this team here, Great Britain over Malaysia in ride number 1, it was about 11 seconds, which is about a second, 3/4 of a second slower than their qualifying time. Because perhaps you're simply trying to keep the sprint as short as possible. Don't let the other team get up to maximum speed. They could be thinking about the finals too, saving energy. If we can go out there and take the Malaysians, control them, keep behind us all the way to the last lap, we can have a very short sprint and have more left in our legs when we take on our teammates in a final. Or the Russian Federation in a final. Still in the saddle, 200 meters to go. These guys have a very short sprint. I think the Malaysians' legs are going around a little bit faster, but the British accelerating a bigger gear and just accelerating right away from Malaysia, and a 200-meter time of 11.5. Took them 11.5 seconds to do the last 4/5 of a lap out there, so you know that was a very short sprint consisting completely of acceleration. Nobody ever got up to top speed, but that was good enough for Great Britain to hold off the Malaysians, and it is Great Britain team number 4 unofficially against Great Britain team number 3 in the finals for gold and silver then, as both of those teams were victorious. 2 in a row over their teams, and we see here the acceleration of that big gear, the ankling motion of the feet, And it is really beautiful, and of course it is machine-enforced synchronicity between the feet, but you see those white shoes going around. And of course these are fixed gear bikes. As long as the wheel's turning, those pedals are still going around. Gradually getting 350 to 400 pounds of rider and bike to decelerate. It will be Great Britain against Great Britain in the finals for gold and silver. Russian Federation against Malaysia in the finals for bronze and fourth place. As we prepare for more racing here. LA Vela, permanent indoor velodrome in the United States and Southern California. And how did this come to be? We'll explain this in just a moment. We are going to the women's sprints now. The riders who were eliminated in the quarterfinals are matched up by their qualifying times. 7th and 8th place on the line right now. You're not out of it. If you lose the quarterfinals, you still get to race for thrills and glory. Qualifying for the 7th and 8th place final from Great Britain, we have a familiar name, Faki, Laura Faki, married to Neil Faki, who we just saw beat the Malaysians there. Laura on the front of this Great Britain tandem, number 92. Understand that Neil and Laura Faki were married shortly after Paralympics in Rio last year. So Laura on the front, Hazel McLeod on the back. That Great Britain tandem will lined up lowest on the track. They will be leaving the line just a little bit before. I've got to take a look here. I've got to look better here. We do not have a ride for 7th and 8th, so let me stand corrected here. We've got Greece, Eleni Kalatsi. This is a ride for 5th and 6th. We may have skipped the ride for 7th. Sometimes riders say it's not worth it. I can save my energy for some other event. So scratch that ride for 7th and 8th. Scratch the whole talk about Great Britain, although Laura Faki is still married to Neil Faki. But this is the Russian Federation and Greece in a ride for 5th and 6th place overall in this competition. And one ride does it here. No best of 3. I want 5th place in the World Championships. You got to win this one ride right here. And for Greece in the blue jerseys, number 96.
And here we are once again for the women's 7th rank. Greece against Russia. So just a reminder for all coaches and athletes, and if there are no third rides and no deciders, we are going to continue immediately with what is on the program. We want to keep things going fast. We are live on television, so there's just a quick thing what it is. So thank you for your cooperation. 4 to go.
All right, and in our administrative confusion here, I think I was given a sheet that just had the teams listed next to the wrong ride. And so Russian Federation and Greece, apparently this is the ride for 7th and 8th, where I had Great Britain and Belgium as listed in the first ride for 7th and 8th. So if indeed this is the ride for 7th and 8th place, then I am told that it is. And so scrap the confusion. Apparently we will see Great Britain with Faki and McLeod, and Belgium, Hoet and Monsieur, in the race for 5th and 6th. This is the ride for 7th and 8th between the Russian Federation and Greece. And so I just have a sheet here that is just reversed on that. Sorry about that.
Slightly by Russia.
Our Greek team in blue, number 96, Eleni Kalatsi, and her stoker, Argyro Milaki, 5th place in the World Championships last year with a different partner. The Russian Federation was 8th place last year. Maria Solomatina, our driver, was 8th place last year with a different partner. Her stoker out here, Irina Perfilova. One ride does it all. Who's going to be 7th and 8th in this? And it looks like the Russian Federation on the inside for 7th place in this World Sprint Tournament, beating out Greece of Kalatsi and Malaki, who will be awarded 8th place. And world ranking points are why these riders are really out here. No podium appearance, no medals, but world ranking points. So just like that, one ride and it's over. And so now, if I am, and take a look at this, the Russian Federation powering over the top, and these tandems don't accelerate quite like a single bike does. So once you get them moving, you just got to get them rolling and keep them rolling. And a really good kick. This is what you call a good kick in cycling. We have a great finish because it takes so much energy to accelerate the bike. The legs can go maximum effort for about 10 seconds. After that, they start to lose strength. And if you can accelerate that bike and then keep it going and accelerate a little bit toward the line, you've got a great sprint. And the Russians did demonstrate that right there for 7th place in these World Championships. All right, 5th and 6th place on the line now. Great Britain, we talked about Laura Faki, married to Neil, who we saw racing in the men's tandems here a little while ago, and we'll see him racing again. Team number 2, Faki, the driver, Hazel McLeod. And they are with Belgium. We see Griet Hoet, the driver, and Anneleen Monsieur, 7th place in 2015. My information shows here that our stoker on that Belgian tandem, Anneleen Monsieur, 7th place with Griet Meskens. She's up here with Griet Hoet, or Hoe. Maybe the same lady. Riders get married and their names change. And so perhaps our driver and stoker were together since at least 2015. But one way or another, they are together here. And we'll see how together they ride. It takes a lot of coordination to ride the tandem, a little bit of verbal communication. A very experienced tandem team will have a feel for each other. When one rider starts to accelerate, the other rider feels it. And you see the Belgians accelerating here high on the track. Great Britain working to catch up. Sometimes, and it's still fairly early in this race, they've got a couple laps to go. Sometimes a team will fade back and tempt another team into going early, knowing that that opposing team at the front probably doesn't have the strength in their legs to keep the speed up. And we'll see if Great Britain has baited Belgium into going too early, but this is a huge gap to make up. 5th and 6th place on the line. British still chasing the Belgians from a long ways back. We're not even to the bell lap yet. This is a long effort. Typically for a sprinter, 15 to 20 seconds for top effort. And these riders out here basically doing a time trial now.
Well, it looks like the strategy is going to pay off for Belgium. It looks like they're on their way to a 5th place finish here today.
And it will be Belgium. For 5th place in the World Championships. For tandem sprinting, sight impaired stoker, fully sighted driver. Great Britain will settle for 6th.
For 5th and 6th place in the men's tandem.
taking it all the way to the line. Once you start, you got to finish it up, and just a little bit of an extra pump in the pedals there. A little extra burst of muscle power. And it is Belgium for 5th place in these World Tandem Sprint Championships. All right, 5th and 6th place in the men's. So here I believe we do not have a 7th and 8th place being contested, and that has been confirmed. So rest assured, folks, I've got it straight on this one. Ireland and Spain. Ireland qualifying at 11.1 seconds this morning, 64.8 kilometers an hour. Martin Gordon and Eamon Byrne. These riders had practiced 7 times together before getting on the track this morning to ride 200 meters and a quarterfinal. So the men in green just getting to know each other. I was talking about the importance of that communication. We'll see how these guys can do here as they take on Spain. Ignacio Avila Rodriguez and Joan Fontbertoli qualified 0.2 of a second faster than Ireland at 10.9 seconds. That is over 66 kilometers an hour. And the individual flying time trial this morning over 200 meters. There's the 200-meter line. They just went past that white line in the middle of turn 1 and 2. Basically 4/5 of a lap. 200 meters being the standard distance by which a sprint cyclist's speed is measured. And again, we're talking 10 or 11 seconds. That is pretty much the maximum amount of time that human muscles can put out maximum power. It's going to vary from athlete to athlete. And the Irish wanting that 5th place award. They're holding Spain high. Spain, though, doesn't want to be held up on the track. They accelerate, try to get around the Irish. The Irish respond, and they are keeping Spain high on the track, making them go the long way around, and see how they're a little bit overlapped, and now the Irish giving Spain a little bit more room. A little bit of a gap there. Now we see the Irish slowing down a bit. Everybody's slowing down a bit. Dangerous thing to do with a tandem, because once you lose that momentum, it is hard to get back, and the Spanish decide not to slow down that much. The Irish weren't looking back there. Boom, down the track go the Spaniards. Up to speed. The Irish have to work too hard to get back that speed that they lost in trying to control this race. They let too much speed go away. They are doing a good job of catching up now, coming into the draft of the Spanish. Long sprint on these tandems today. Still 1 lap to go. And so the Irish climbing back on there. They've got the draft, but do they have the power now to come all the way around? They've only got 50 meters to do it. They're a bike length back, and it looks like it's going to be Spain on the inside with a great move. A great move nearly 3 laps ago when the Irish went up track, slowed down a little too much, and that Spanish driver, Ignacio Avila Rodriguez, saw the opportunity, dove the bike down the banking, kept the momentum up, and the Irish never recovered. And so it is 5th place in this sprint tournament to Spain, while Ireland's Martin Gordon and Eamon Byrne settle for 6th. Great tactics. You see why it is so important. And so Irish going up the track, slowing down, and that split-second decision by Avila Rodriguez with Joan Fontbertoli on the back. They say go. They see the opportunity, and in the relatively ponderous world of sprint racing for tandems, if you have an opportunity to get the speed up early, you just carry it, because 2 guys on a big bike have a lot of momentum. You've got the opportunity, you take it. And for Spain, that results in 5th place in the World Championships. All right, coming up next should be women coming back for the finals. should be the final for bronze medal, best 2-3. Got to beat your opponent twice.
List of 3 for the bronze medal in the women's tandem sprint event. At the top of the track, we have the duo from Australia.
So Great Britain
Ready to take off.
with Australia. This is the battle for the bronze. The Australians, Jessica Gallagher, as driver last year with a different stoker, Madison Hansen, won the World Championships. Now Gallagher with Stephanie Prixa competing for the bronze medal against Team 93, Great Britain. Lost 2 straight to their compatriots, number 1994, Great Britain. Patrick and Scott. We'll see Patrick and Scott up here in the gold medal final against another Great British team. So team number 93 for Great Britain. 3 Great Britain teams in the finals. Could be a blue and red and white podium. Thank you. So in this final for bronze and 4th place, these were the riders who were vanquished in the best 2 of 3 series in the semifinals just minutes ago. Australia's Jessica Gallagher, former world champion. Her stoker, Stephanie Prixa. Australia, white with yellow and green, number 90. Great Britain, team number 94, Alison Patrick and Helen Scott. Scott, a former world champion when she was teamed up with Sophie Thornhill. But Patrick and Scott, number 94, Great Britain. And I'm going to correct myself here. Number 93, excuse me, this is the final for bronze medal. So Great Britain, Aileen McGlynn and Louise Aston. Sorry for the confusion, folks. Both these teams losing 2 straight in the semifinals. So going for 3rd and 4th. There we go. McGlynn and Haston. My apologies. I've got people. No, wrong people, you silly yank. Sorry about that. As we've seen so often out here in the match sprints, coming around, following the opponent and then blasting around. A risky maneuver with you've got a long tandem bicycle to get all the way around, but the Australians doing a great job of it here. Gallagher and Prixa taking a ride in number 1, unofficially in 11.8 seconds. A little bit off the qualifying time, but again, a tactical race, and Australia 11.8, and you see the jump there out of the saddle. If you can get both riders out of the saddle on the tandem, keep it smooth, you've got a big power advantage. And the Australian ladies with great team coordination there. You got to believe that Gallagher holding on to those handlebars got to have some great upper body strength. Sprinters do a lot of upper body weightlifting as well as lower body weightlifting. Gain the power they need for these explosive races. We will see these teams once again in the second in their best of 3 rides coming up in just a little while. Right now, the first in a best of 3 series for the gold medal between 2 teams of Great Britain. 2015 world champion Sophie Thornhill with her new partner Karina Hall. They will be against Great Britain team number 94, Alison Patrick and Helen Scott. notice some of the riders strapping into their pedals. Most of the pedals used now are a little bit like downhill ski boots. You click into them, you click into those bindings, but some of our track riders prefer to put the old-fashioned leather toe strap over the top of that just to feel more secure.
And we'll have them going in face-to-face. Sophie Thornhill and her comment, Corinne Hall, and Allison Patrick and her comment, Helen Scott.
And we see the strap there on the front rider, the driver, team number 94. So that would be Allison Patrick. I think the stoker of the 95 bike, Karina Hall, has a strap over her foot as well. Mid-1980s when they developed what we called clipless pedals. No little metal clip over the toe, no strap over. So, wow, this is so comfortable, and it indeed is. Got to make sure your shoe's on tight. Have a good secure feel. You see the riders, the shoe being held on the pedal in the exact position by the cleat of that shoe clicking into the mechanism on the pedal, holds the foot in the exact position where the ball of the big toe typically is pretty much over the center of the axle of that pedal, and it's going to vary from rider to rider and specialty to specialty, but it tends to generate that little ankling motion you see where the toes come down and the heels go up at the bottom of the stroke. Very fluid motion. You get a little bit of power out of the calf muscles, but not a lot. But it does tend to help make that pedal stroke circular, getting as much power out of all parts of that stroke as you can. The human body not necessarily made for pulling up real hard, but you try to at least lighten the pedal. Pulling up on the pedal typically just lightens the weight so you're not resisting the foot that's going down as much. And that is really a big part of pedaling and the pedal dynamics. Most of that power, of course, coming on the downstroke. Sometimes these bikes will accelerate and you see the bike jerking forward with each downstroke and then settling back a little bit when the cranks are vertical. A little bit more visible on a single bike than a tandem. Our number 94 team, Patrick and Scott. The 95 team, Thornhill and Hall. Thornhill on the front of the number 95 bike used to be teamed up with Helen Scott on the back of the number 94 bike. The 95, Thornhill and Hall at the front. Now they're at the front. And again, classic. This is getting to be almost a routine out here in these sprint championships of starting at the back, coming over the top around 1.5 to 1 lap to go. And it looks like 95 in ride number 1, 200-meter time of 12.2. So Sophie Thornhill driving, Karina Hall, her new stoker, take ride number 1 against their British compatriots, Allison Patrick and Helen Scott, ride number 1 of these finals for the World Championship jersey. And we will be back with the bronze medal ride, Australia and Great Britain. Great Britain's here in just a moment as we watch 2 finely matched British teams with that ever-powerful team of Thornhill and Hall making their way over the top of Patrick and Scott. You got to finish what you started. You keep those pedals going around. And on 12.2 seconds, not a real fast time. It's about a little over half a second behind the qualifying time. But again, energy conservation is a big part of the game of match sprinting. Don't sprint any earlier than you need to. You don't want to wear yourself out in that ride, and you don't want to wear yourself out for future rides. So often in cycling, the endurance riders, who we will see up here in a 15-kilometer scratch race momentarily, they joke to the sprinters about how the sprinters don't need to be very fit. They just go out there for a few seconds, go hard. But when you've got to do it 9 times in a day with that maximum effort. Hey, a lot goes into it.
First ride between Malaysia, Muhammad Afifi Nizam and Muhammad Karul Adha going against
And now to the men
Yutin and
for the bronze medal. And a little harder for me to screw up this pairing here. For the bronze medal now, the Russian Federation, Leonid Tyutin and Artur Spirin, in the red jerseys were beaten 2 straight by Great Britain's Misters Ball and Rotherham. Malaysia's Risan Muhammad Afiq Afifi with Rasul Muhammad Karul Hada were beaten by Great Britain team number 4, Faki and McLean. So the battle for the bronze commences. Up next will be the gold and silver medal first ride between Great Britain's Ball and Rotherham and Great Britain's Faki and McLean. Right now, Russian Federation. Leonid Tyutin, Artur Spirin. Just watching cautiously. They don't have to crane their necks, look back at anybody, but a lot of rubbernecking being done there by Rizan Muhammad Afiq Afifi of Malaysia and his vision impaired stoker Rasul Muhammad Karul Abda listening carefully. I cannot quite imagine what it is like to go careening around these 45-degree bankings at 40 to 45 miles an hour or 65 to 70 kilometers an hour. Not seeing, but you know, the stoker has a lot of faith in the driver of a tandem, whether or not you're sighted. Quite the sensation. You get a little bit of a G-force. It's not like 2 or 3 or 4 Gs like flying an aerobatic airplane, but you do feel a little extra weight. You're going through these tight turns, and the bike is leaned over on some tracks and some speeds. The bike will be leaned over almost parallel to the ground. So it is indeed quite the thrill ride up and down this banking. The Malaysians gaining some speed and some catching up for our gentlemen from Russia. They've got to catch up. They'd have to really light the afterburners at this point. They don't make up all of that distance. A little miscalculation perhaps by Tyutin of Russia, and it is Rizan Afiq Afifi and Rasul Karul Abda of Malaysia taking ride number 1. 200-meter time of 10.8. From the front, the Russians unable to come around. And we will see these riders again in ride number 2 in their battle for the bronze as we go to the gold medal round. And while they prepare, we take a look at Malaysia, and you see how banked over through those turns they are. During training sessions, when people are on and off the track and some of the riders are just cooling down from their training on a track and they are on the apron, you've got to make sure you do not ride too far out towards the banking, because somebody can come by at 40 miles an hour and you can hit heads at 40 miles an hour because the people on the track and low on that sprinter's lane on the board track are leaned over so far. So you want to stay a little bit away from the track surface if you're just cooling down on the apron during a training session. And I'm sure these men have trained together a lot. James Ball with Matthew Rotherham. That is Great Britain team number 3, and they will be battling for the World Championship jersey against Neil Faki and Craig McLean, Great Britain team number 4. I've just got to make it hard on poor announcers like me by having identical helmets, identical equipment, The British teams, Olympic teams, Paralympic teams, very well equipped, very well coached. The sports science and sports psychology program is very thorough, and a push at the grassroots level to popularize the sport, to build that talent base, and boy do they ever. In the Olympics and Paralympics, Great Britain has been dominant or close to dominant for at least 8 years now. So team number 3 leading out is Ball and Rotherham. What do you do when you know your opponent inside and out? When you've ridden against them in training, in national competition. What kind of new tricks can one come up with? Just have to wait and see. Six laps of a 250-meter velodrome. It's a pretty long race, and the dynamics of match sprinting typically crank up and get pretty interesting the last half of such an event. It is nice, though, to get out there, get a few laps, get the feel for the bike and for your partner. As we've mentioned, the Irish team that we saw in a 5th and 6th place final. They've only ridden together 7 times before they started riding the World Championships qualifying this morning. Of course, the riders from Great Britain, more experienced than that, but a couple of warm-up laps here. Team number 4 going for some altitude there. As Neil Fackie guides the bike up and down the track, playing a little game there. And now it looks like they slip underneath. Slipping underneath Ball and Rotherham, so it is 4 leading 3. 3 doing a pretty good job of fighting back, though. Do we see, though, team number 3, James Ball guiding the bike back down behind 4 into a draft, trying to slingshot around, but it is not going to be enough time to come around. A big, long tandem, and team number 4 for Great Britain takes ride number 1 in this pursuit of gold. And the world champions jersey, 200-meter time at 10.5 for team number 4. So some time for rethinking by Neil Fackie and Craig McLean, and they may have to come up with a different strategy to try to tie it up in ride number 2 if they want to win that coveted World Championship rainbow jersey. Look at this, up and down the track. Control now being exerted by Fackie and McLean, holding Ball and Rotherham high, fading back. And here later in the race, after they slipped underneath, up and down the track a couple times, got team number 3 into a rhythm of going up and down with them, and then boom, down the track they go underneath, take the lead, and they did not relinquish. We will see again what happens in their next ride when we come around for ride number 2. Right now, we are going to go to massed start racing. 15-kilometer scratch race. That is 60 laps. The endurance men are taken to the track next here at these 2017 UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. Coming to you from Carson, California. The StubHub Center and Velo Sports Center. The velodrome here, built around 2003. And actually it replaced the 1984 Olympic Velodrome, which was built on the same general chunk of land, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Right now, we see a lot of riders lining up. This is the scratch race.
The scratch race is a classic first across the line mass start race. The men race across a distance of 15 kilometers. The women race across 10 kilometers. Endurance riders often surge in an attempt to unsettle all the sprinters in the field. In turn, the sprinters will try to shelter with the pack for most of the race, conserving their energy until the final laps. The starter will indicate the leading rider by pointing as they pass on the home straight.
Indeed, straight out bike racing. Easy enough to understand. First rider across the line, as long as all the rules are followed, will be our world scratch race champion. This category, by the way, is C4 and C5, which are a moderate to mild disability class. And some of the riders included in this include our defending world champion, Kyle Bridgewood, at number 60 of Australia. He's ranked second in the world overall when you combine all of the World Cup and international events, short events, long events. Bridgewood. Alistair Donohoe of Australia is also here, and in Rio, actually, he was going to win the road race, an endurance event, multi-geared bikes outside. He crashed 100 meters from the line, ran to the line, crossed the line first, but without his bike. It's a bike race. You've got to have a bike. He lost the Olympics that way. But he was our scratch race champion for the entire world in 2015. Silver medalist last year. So a couple of the riders to watch out for. Number 80, Alistair Donohoe of Australia. And his teammate, number 60, Kyle Bridgewood of Australia. We've also got in here a rider from the United States, Jason Mackham, host country. Christopher Murphy, number 86. Got a great road rider in here from the Czech Republic, number 63. Ranked 6th overall in the world in road racing for the C4 division, Yuri Jacek, number 63. And as we heard on the tape, the gentleman explaining the endurance riders trying to make things long and tough for the sprinters. I would expect to see riders like number 63, Jacek, keep things fast out there. He's an endurance rider, one of the best road racers in the world, over hill and dale for dozens of miles at a time. This one, 15 kilometers. Unlike the 100 kilometers or so you'll see in a road race. And there we have perhaps a C2, C3, C2 rider. I'm not sure, number 68. That is an example of actually of a C4 rider, because just the lower leg, one lower leg gone, and a carbon fiber leg. They are light, they are aerodynamic, and the calf muscles do not make a huge difference in power applied to pedals, mostly in the thigh muscles. And so riders, he is missing a lower leg, but he is classified as a C4. Again, not all that disabled. And of course, I don't think these athletes see themselves really as disabled. They're just, this is them, this is their life, it's their body, and you see what they do with it. They race in the world championships, and they are, a lot of them, almost as fast as our elite athletes, such as the elite Olympians who were here in Los Angeles last week for the World Cup competition. And so scratch race, 60 laps to go. All right, so we've got 59 laps to go. And again, just like match sprints, you don't necessarily have to start out real fast. You want to get a feel for things. Things will sort themselves out after a while. Now, some riders like to go from the gun. Guys like Ježek of Czech Republic, number 63, is a great road racer, a lot of endurance. He may want to take it out there one of these times and start very fast and try to wear out the legs of the short distance power people. And we've seen a lot of the sprinters out there on the tandems. And some of the riders out here in the C4 and C5 group are more like sprinters. They can develop a lot of power in the weight room. They're the guys you see putting a lot of plates on a barbell and lifting enormous amounts of weight, where other guys are a little skinnier or they just don't have that type of muscle fiber. And they can lift less weight but do it longer. Same thing on a bike. Take up a lot of speed, put a lot of power over a short distance. That's a sprinter. Those guys do not want to see what is happening right now, as we've got a rider from Australia, number 60. I'm going to take another look at that. We've got the rider from Spain, number 64 out there, Cesar Niera Perez, trying to stretch things out. And now another rider, perhaps we'll get his identity here in a second. One other rider. Obviously, this man is into endurance. And I think that is our Great British rider, Great Britain rider Jody Cundy. He actually won the 1 kilometer race here, which is only 4 laps of this track against the clock. That is a power event with some endurance mixed in, and yet he is ranked number 4. He is ranked number 4 in track racing as well. So it shows that he has a lot of versatility. And right now, our kilo champion, 4-lap time trial champion, on the attack. And he is joined by a number 81, I think that is Cesar Lauro Cheman of Brazil. And Cheman is a great endurance rider. He won the 3,000 meter pursuit out here, the 3,000 meter time trial, and that is 12 laps of this track. And so the man from Brazil, a great endurance rider, the winner of the 3K time trial, out there in the mix. And things could change rapidly as the riders now communicating with each other. We're settling into 3 riders in that breakaway. And you see how things change so rapidly as riders went out there, out into the wind, braved, going it out there alone, tired out. Counterattacks happened in a very aggressive race here with 85 and 83 out there. We'll get their ID here in just a second. If I saw correctly, Jonathan Gilday, second place in a 1,000 meter. Silver medalist in last year's scratch race. Jonathan Gilday of Great Britain. The man in the middle right there. 81 just pulling up now. He's had enough time out there in the wind, breaking through the wind for his instant teammates. That is Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil, our 3,000 meter or 12-lap time trial champion. Good endurance guy to have in a breakaway with you. And you look for these guys. You look for the guys who you know do well in road racing and on the pursuits and the long events. And if you want to get away from the sprinters, make it a small group, mathematically increase your odds of winning a race, leave everybody behind. That's what you do. And one rider going down a lap there. 81, 83, and 85. Chaman of Brazil. Number 81, 83, Rodriguez of Dominican Republic. This is the first time we have mentioned Dominican Republic today. Number 85 of Great Britain, Jonathan Gilday. He's got just a slew of results over the years, including silver medalist in the Scratch Race World Championships last year. Silver medal in the 1,000 meter or 4-lap time trial here this week. The chase now breaking away, led by an Australian. 4 riders, including I think 2 Australians in that closest chase group. Our Australians, looks like number 80, Donahoe, the winner of the scratch race 2 years ago, silver medalist last year. Our other Australian, Kyle Bridgewood, defending world champion. He wants to get into that break. Our leaders coming by with 42 laps to go. And they are just working together now. These guys know that for their mutual benefit, they've got to act like teammates. keep it smooth, keep it together, each take their turn at the front. Remember, the guy at the front's working 25 to 30% harder than the riders are sitting behind him, using him as a wind block. It is amazing what a difference that makes. Now you think, well, in a car, you just push the gas pedal a little harder. Not the way it works in a human body. There are basically two energy systems in a human body. One is go full blow for 10 seconds, and the other one is back off a bit. 85, 86, and 81 are leaders. There we go. So our Dominican Republic man, misidentified 86th, Christopher Murphy of the United States, ranked 5th in track racing, winner of a kilometer competition, and so it is Murphy of the United States, 85 Gilday of Great Britain, and 81 Chaman of Brazil. My apologies for misidentity there, apparently, of a rider from Dominican Republic, but guys whizzing by now. No, I do see an 81 of Brazil now leading through, and a chase coming up. Still that chase with former world champions from Australia in it. 81 and 85. Australians back in the pack. So Brazil and Great Britain with a lead too, and now this three-man group. 63, 65, and 64. That is Jiří Ježek. Yanks ranked 6th place in road racing out of the world. He's from Czech Republic. A lot of endurance there. He's going to be using that now in this chase, trying to work together with Cesar Niera Perez of Spain. He's number 64. And then number 65, Jody Cundy of Great Britain, ranked number 4th in track racing. Interesting. 81 and 85 still in that lead. Gilday of Great Britain in the lead. In that next chase group is Jody Cundy of Great Britain. Now, Cundy is most likely not going to be real enthusiastic about chasing his teammate and may not be helping with the chase. And now, as the lead group breaks up, the chase group is in trouble. And everything is being overhauled, and look at that. Adding power is number 81 of Brazil. Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil. And it seems like he just added power as he is lapping several riders in the field now. Several riders in the field, so he is going to be most likely called one lap up here in a moment, and very hard to lose a race unless your legs really blow up, which can happen. Riders can become so exhausted from a mid-race effort. Remember, this is a long race, a 60-lap race. We are just about halfway through it, 31 laps to go. But in the first half of the race, Brazil taking a lead. 85 in second place for Great Britain coming through right now, Jonathan Gilday. Silver medalist in this race last year at the World Championships in Italy. Third and fourth place now are the two Australians, Bridgewood. We'll look for those guys to come by. Here we come. Our two Australians, 60 and 80. Kyle Bridgewood, number 60. Defending world champion at number 80, Alistair Donohoe. Man who almost won the Paralympic road race, but crashed with 100 meters to go. But he was our world scratch race champion in 2015. So two, a former world champion and a defending world champion, working together. Try not to be lapped by the man who's coming around right now, and we'll have them in sight on the same straightaway. Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil. Man in green and dark blue continues on alone. And he has defending world champion and former world champion in his sights when he comes around onto the back straight. He can look ahead and see our two Australians, Bridgewood and Donohoe, about 8 seconds ahead of him. We'll give it 9 seconds. And now Chaman may not be able to get up and lap those guys or latch on and get a draft behind them. But he has a big lead right now. We're going to have to watch because he looked very smooth, very strong when he was first attacking. And now you see Chaman. If we take a look at Chaman, you'll see that his arms are starting to straighten out a little bit. His legs are not going around in quite the smooth circles they had been. The mouth starts to open, the head starts to droop. He is getting tired. And you don't get tired in a linear fashion. If you understand logarithmic curves, I guess you would call it. The tireder you get, the tireder you get. And it's like the monkey bounces on your back, like trying to make your legs go through water. So we'll see if Chaman can hold on to this huge lead. I'm sure he wanted to lap the field. You lap the field, you get to draft those people, you get to rest. But he was not able to draft. And it looks like Bridgewood and Donahoe of Australia really put on some gas there, and now they have come around, caught some other riders, and are dragging them around at a high speed. And there goes number 80, Alistair Donahoe, 2015 World Scratch Race champion, taking off with his own trio of riders, while his teammate, last year's world champion Kyle Bridgewood, sits back in another pairing. Wow, this is a brutal, brutal race. The pack came apart after 10 laps or so out of these 60. Our leader still on his own, Chaman of Brazil, trying to hang on to that lead. He's got a big lead, but as the legs get tired and he has no one to work with, no one to sit behind for half the time out there, he could lose a lot of distance. Donahoe of Australia leading the chasing trio, and now going to the back, and here comes our chase. 85 of Great Britain, Jonathan Gilday. And Gilday, a star in his own right, silver medalist last year. He's also medaled in a 1,000-meter time trial. And so the fight has begun now to bring back Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil. 18 laps to go, just over 2/3 of the way through this race. And the man from Brazil trying to figure out how he's going to keep it going. You've got to reach down, and this is where it is mind over matter. And you think of the determination, but the more you see of teeth, the more pain and maybe near panic you know that a rider can be in. Sucking the air in through that air scoop. Got the mouth open. The leg's not looking as smooth anymore. He's adjusting himself on the saddle, coming up on, I believe, Kyle Bridgewood of Australia, who's kind of decided to relax a bit here. Chaman going over him, continuing on alone. And look how many people have dropped out of the race. We've got 5 riders left on the track. Started out with 14 riders. We have 5 riders left on the track. Our chase coming through now. 14 laps to go. 68 in there with us. That is Josef Metelka of Slovakia. He is the #1 ranked road rider in the world. He also won the 4,000 meter or 16 lap time trial out here for C4s. The C4s and C5 do 16 laps in their pursuit time trial. He's the world champion in that. Silver medalist in the 1,000 meter or 4 lap time trial out here. #1 ranked road rider in the world. A great combination of power and endurance in Josef Metelka, number 68 of Slovakia, and he is in that chase group. And we just look at the solo. Lauro Cesar Chaman. Bronze medalist in the 1K. Bronze medalist in the 1K, a short event, and you look how they are gaining on him now. Donahoe up and down very quickly to get on the draft, and you see now somebody not working so much in that chase group. Number 68 not working so much in that chase group. Metelka did not stay at the front and make his turn at the front, breaking through the wind for his instant teammates, for his breakaway partners there. instead taking it easy, not cooperating as much, and that brought Donahoe of Australia to the front very quickly. Gilday of Great Britain to the front very quickly. And so Metelka, number 68, now in the middle. We'll see if he stays at the front. No, he does not. He goes right up as soon as Donahoe of Australia goes up. Metelka of Slovakia goes up. He is not taking his 30% harder turn at the front. He is saving a lot of energy, but I'm sure that the Australian and the British riders are getting a little bit anxious about that situation. He is saving, the man from Slovakia in blue, saving a lot of energy. Look at that, and look, the Australian just said, hey, get out of the way. You know, leader, get out of the way. And now Australia, Donahoe on the attack, challenging the road rider, number 1 ranked road rider in the world in C4 classification, to chase after him. Gilday of Great Britain is not going to do the work. He's saying, you want to go after him, come around me, and you go after him. So our 2015 World Scratch Race champion going after the man from Brazil who's been out there so long, and with only 5 laps to go, number 81, Chaman of Brazil can taste victory. But you see, that taste could be turning sour right now as a 2015 world champion from Australia is turning things around. Chaman looks back, and there is Donahoe. Donahoe makes contact, and it is Chaman with Donahoe. Chaman's got to be exhausted from this solo effort. And now Metelka of Slovakia, along with Gilday of Great Britain, have caught up as well. And now look at this, Donahoe making Chaman chase to catch the other duo, and all 4 riders together. I believe they are on the same lap, but in case they are not, remember that all results that I give out are unofficial until stated otherwise. And so with 2 laps remaining, it is going to come down to a sprint between 4 riders. And number 81 in a dark blue with green led this race so long. Laurel Cesar Chaman, number 81, and they are chattering back and forth. I have no idea what they would be chattering about right now with a lap and a half to go. Our 2015 World Scratch champion, Donahoe, on the attack. Alistair Donahoe, ranked number 1 in track racing in the world. And Chaman, look at this. Chaman may have a chance of winning this thing after all. He's still got a sprint left. This is amazing after a huge solo effort. And Metelka coming around, followed by Gilday. And Donahoe let it out too soon. He exhausted himself. And look at this. Unofficially, Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil wins the World Scratch Race Championships after an enormous solo effort that was brought in. This announcer thought his legs would be way too tired to blast past again in the final lap, but he has done it just the same. Now the officials have to confirm this result to make sure all riders were on the same lap, to make sure that all rules were followed. There was some lateral motion going on, and if we take a look at the final half a lap or so, we can see how this man came around to be first place, first over the line in this World Scratch Race Championship of a very happy Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil. Huge effort he put out there, and he never gave up. And this is why you never want to give up. And the feeling he has is unequaled. I can guarantee you that. There is nothing that compares to winning a championship like this. And a frustrated Gilday, I suppose, Jonathan Gilday, number 85 of Great Britain, silver medalist in this one last year, and we'll get his placing for you momentarily. But he was in the top 3. He should be on the podium again. And there is number 80, Donahoe, Alistair Donahoe. And either 3rd or 4th, as Donahoe led that sprint out, was passed in the end. But we will get results for you here in a moment. And maybe we can, and our results showing right now, Chaman of Brazil, Gilday of Great Britain, Donahoe of Australia, Metelka, our road rider from Slovakia, with a very respectable 4th place. And you could tell Metelka was getting a bit tired out there. He was not helping with the chase against Chaman. And I thought, well, the man is saving a lot of energy. He's going to attack at the end and try to win solo, but he had no energy for that. And perhaps that is what was happening. The talk going on out there may have been with Metelka that you did not help with the chase, you do not sprint. And as a gentleman's agreement, he may not have sprinted. We take a look at this final lap with Donahoe leading out, followed by Chaiman, Metelka, and Gilday. And look at that kick. I am amazed. Out of the decades of bike racing I have seen, so we're going to sort things out a little bit here. There is a feeling unequaled to win a world championship, and I think that Lauro Cesar Chaiman will be smiling for an awful long time about this one. That is one hard-earned rainbow jersey. Remember, all of these results are unofficial. They are preliminary. But what a fantastic race we had here. And we've got another 15-kilometer scratch race coming up in just a little bit with the category the C1 through C3 with greater disabilities coming with a 60-lap, that is 15-kilometer scratch race in just a little while. Right now we are going to go back to the second ride of our gold, silver, and bronze medal round tandem sprints. So we return to our women sprinters. And remember, you've got to beat your opponent twice. This is the bronze medal ride between team number 90 of Australia, Jessica Gallagher, and Stephanie Prixa. Team number 93 of Great Britain, Aileen McGlynn and Louise Aston. Australia, the winner of the first race, 200-meter time was 11.8 seconds, so about a half a second off of their qualifying time. Keeping control of the ride, so the Australians. Remember that Jessica Gallagher, the driver of that, the pilot of that Australian bike, world champion last year with a different partner, Madison Jansen. This year teamed up with Stephanie Prixa, and they are going for bronze against Great Britain number 93, Aileen McGlynn and Louise Aston. So if the Australian pair wins this ride, they will be the bronze medalists. If Great Britain's McGlynn and Haston win this ride, it'll be tied at 1 each, and we'll see them race again in this battle for the bronze. Most of our tandem sprints, the winner has taken the lead during the acceleration phase with a couple of laps to go typically. And we have seen straight lead-outs as well of just winding it up, and the riders at the back, team at the back, never gets to the front. The Australians keeping a fairly brisk pace here, perhaps 30, 35 kilometers an hour. But McGlynn and Haston of Great Britain slip underneath and pick up the pace some more. So their intentions at the bell are they are going to lead it out, and there is some distance that has to be made up by the Australians. The Australians won the first ride. Great Britain looks good in the second ride. Coming all the way around a long tandem bicycle is a difficult task, and it is Great Britain on the inside for ride number 2 in a 200-meter time at 12 seconds flat. Unofficially, we've got a tie game, and we will go to a third and deciding ride for the bronze medal between Australia's Jessica Gallagher and Stephanie Prixa, and Great Britain's Aileen McGlynn and Louise Aston. Now watch the move underneath. Even though the Australians were looking underneath them, the move by the British, the Great Britain team, quick enough at that big tandem bicycle of the Australians, unable to respond and shut them down. And underneath comes Great Britain for the win to tie it up. So we will see these two great teams once more in that third and deciding ride for the bronze medal in these World Championships. All right, we've got two teams from Great Britain battling it out for gold and silver. In ride number 1, it was team number 95, former world champion Sophie Thornhill, our driver with her new stoker Karina Hall. And they beat Thornhill's former stoker Helen Scott with her new driver Allison Patrick, team number 94, in the first ride. So team number 95, one ride up over team number 94. Old teammates pitted against each other. Sophie Thornhill, a driver of number 95, won the World Championships in 2015 with Helen Scott, who is now stoking on the back of the number 94 bike. 200-meter time for the first ride was 12.2 seconds, so they didn't start sprinting until fairly late in the final lap. Never really had the distance to get it up to top speed, and so you have a very low speed. Took a long time to do 200 meters, 12.2 seconds, somewhere around the low 60s kilometers per hour by my estimate. Tandem bikes, you know, when you put two engines on one big bike, you can get a lot of speed out of these things, and a lot of the men out here going well over 70 kilometers per hour, which is roughly 40 miles per hour. So 95 with one ride under their belt, with one win under their belt. If they win this one, they are world champions. If 94, Patrick and Scott win, we will see a third ride just like we're going to see in the battle for the bronze. But gold and silver out here on the track in whichever order. Identical uniforms, identical bikes. Oh yeah, we do have maybe some different socks. We've got some long black socks on the 95 bike, Karina Hall, or no, the driver, Sophie Thornhill. That's about it. Slowly winding it up. Very straightforward, and we see the driver out of the saddle and then back in the saddle over the top. The momentum gained right there at 1.5 laps to go. That is Sophie Thornhill with Karina Hall over the top. They won ride at number 1, and they've got a big advantage in ride number 2. Unofficially your world tandem sprint champions from Great Britain, Sophie Thornhill, Karina Hall. Their teammates, number 94, Allison Patrick and Helen Scott, unofficially your silver medalists. 200-meter time of 12.3. And again, a big surge at just the right time is what does it for you. Look at the power there. Almost a walking pace going over the top. That was at 1 lap to go. Nice line. You don't want to come down on top of your opponents. Don't want to drive them off the track. You could be relegated and lose the World Championships. They keep it right, nice straight line. Karina Hall celebrates. And Great Britain number 95, Thornhill and Hall will be at the top of the podium to receive rainbow jerseys of world champions. Silver medal to Patrick and to Scott. And now we go on to the men before we will go back to the third and deciding ride for the women's bronze. We revisit our men's ride for the bronze. The winner of the first ride, team number 6, Malaysia, with Rizan Muhammad Afiq Afifi and his stoker Rasul Muhammad Karul Abdal. They won the first ride from the front. Around men of the Russian Federation and held on. The Russian Federation team number 7 in the red, Leonid Tyutin and Artur Spirin, want to win this one and tie it up.
Taking off here. And for Malaysia, Muhammad Afiq Afifi Rizan. And Rizan Muhammad Rasul.
And the first ride, our riders from Malaysia were in the first starting position. They led the first lap and they just kept it at the front generally. So this time, men from Russia are starting at the front and deciding to keep it right now. Hard to tell, but you take a look at the cadence, how fast the feet are going around of each of the riders. Perhaps you can see if one set of feet go around a little bit more over a distance than the other team's feet. Somebody might have a smaller gear on to enhance their acceleration. Another team might have a little bit higher gear on to enhance their top speed. Which strategy will win? And it's very difficult to tell this. But your gear relative to your opponents, or your gear just relative to your own ability. If you need more speed, if you don't think you're going to be able to contain your opponent and keep the sprint late in the race and relatively slow, then maybe you have your mechanic put on a big sprocket underneath that stoker. You see those sprockets, the big sprocket right underneath the back rider. That chain connects to the back sprocket on the wheel and makes your gear ratio. And one way or another, the Russian Federation, one gear or another, they were able to accelerate that baby very nicely past the Malaysians. The Malaysians with the first ride, trying to, come around the outside of the Russian Federation comes up. The Malaysians come over the top. And wow, we're going to have to take another look at that. Did Tyutin lose control? Did he try to just hook the Malaysians, maybe intimidate them? The line, though, changed quite a bit. The Malaysians still managed to come around. And we could have, maybe it's a rule infraction, maybe it's not. Maybe it was a mechanical problem. But here come the Malaysians on the replay. Nice and low, trying to minimize their distance around to the finish line. And the Russians, you look at that, the bike squiggled as the Russians came up. They backpedaled. Something went out of control on that Russian Federation bike. Are their tires too slick for the painted lines? Look at that. The rear wheel went again, and I wonder if they had a flat tire. There may have been a mechanical problem on the bike of the Russian Federation. And rather than losing control, I'd say that Leonid Tyutin and Artur Spirin did a fantastic job of keeping that bike under control, as they had apparently a rear tire problem. And we saw that bike break loose, the rear end break loose twice in the last quarter lap. And so we'll investigate that. First over the line was the team from Malaysia, but I will wait and see if the ride is made official. The officials are talking through it now, and we'll await the announcement. Meanwhile, we prepare for the gold medal ride between two teams from Great Britain. They'll be up here momentarily. A little bit of a scare for the men from the Russian Federation. It's all part of a day's work for an elite level cyclist. Tandem racing is not for the faint of heart. In fact, bicycle racing in general, not for the faint of heart. You have interesting interactions with your opponents. Sometimes something goes wrong with the bike. The back tire of the Russian Federation's bike breaking loose a couple times there. They actually had to backpedal back off and slow that thing down. And the Malaysians happy. They're thinking that perhaps they are the bronze medalist in 2 rides straight, but we're waiting for the officials to make that announcement. Let's take another look at the final quarter lap. You see, after the bike cut loose one time, it almost took out the Malaysians. They came over the top. Now watch the Russians squiggle again right there. And typically that's indicative of low pressure in the tire. And we go to our gold medal race. Team number 4, the winner of the first race, Neil Facki. And Neil Facki teamed up with Craig McLean. And so team number 3, Great Britain, James Ball driving, Matthew Rotherham, the stoker. They want to win this one to tie it up. If they don't win this one, then team number 4, Facki and McLean, will be our world champions.
Now this is the moment, ladies and gentlemen, the rehearsal for
Again, a good match sprinter there. Being able to ride one direction while looking the other. Team number 4, Neil Facki. Looking over both shoulders. They won the first ride at 200-meter time at 10.5, so it was a fairly long sprint. They had time to wind it up and get some pretty good speed out of that. They qualified at 10.2. That is over 70 kilometers an hour. Now look at Facki, always looking back behind him. McLean turning as well, and I'm not sure of the total sight impairment of Mr. McLean, but riders could also listen for their opponents if they get close. You can hear the rumbling. If you're close, you can hear the rumbling of the tires on this Siberian pine hardwood track. Very faint rumble. They've also got wind in their ears, although a lot of helmets are designed now to reduce wind noise and wind resistance. You see the British teams with these aerodynamically designed helmets. They have no cooling baffles in them. They're just slick for top speed. Team number 4 trying to take it from the front. They won the first ride, but look at the attack coming around the outside of drag race on the back straight into turns number 3 and 4, trying to hold the bike as low as possible, minimize the distance to the line, and 3 has got the speed over the top. I believe it was team number 3 in a 200-meter time at 10.33. All right, we may have a tie game here. Before I say it more assertively, let's take a look in slow motion. Look at the power, the hips of James Ball. Look at how close he came trying to keep that bike as low as possible, and you look and it is just centimeters Wow, as close as you can be. And that is why Mr. Ball and Mr. Rotherham were keeping that bike as low on the track as possible, trying to hold down 350 to 400 pounds of rider and bike. What is that, about 180 kilos of weight, screaming through a tight turn on a small track, barely on the edge of control, just on the edge of control. But it paid off. That slightly shorter line, a little bit more efficient, and they finish a couple centimeters ahead for a tie game in the battle for gold and silver between these two Great Britain teams. Number 3 and number 4. Ball with Rotherham, Facu with McLean. And we will see them again. I have not received official word on the bronze medal ride, whether the Malaysians are awarded that second ride or whether there will be another ride because the Russian Federation may have had a mechanical problem, but we'll get that word to you as soon as possible. Meanwhile, we have a scratch race final. And so we are told that there will probably be a re-ride, as we understand it, a re-ride between Russian Federation and Malaysia because of possibly a mechanical problem there, and the Russian Federation bike will get that word to you when that becomes official. And right now we prepare for one more scratch race, 60 laps. These four C1, C2, and C3 athletes, the disabilities a bit more pronounced than the C5 and C4. Oftentimes, looking at the UCI technical aspects, poor functional strength in the trunk and or all extremities, single amputation of leg. This is C1, single amputation of leg, arm, same side or diagonal, with or without the use of prosthesis. Trying to explain, and there we have rider one leg from Greece, and this is 17-year-old Nikolaos Papangelis. 17 years old, his first World Championships. And so I would believe that would be a C1 or a C2. We've also got C3 riders in this race, but I believe they are awarded separately. Race together, awarded separately. A C3, a single amputation, no prosthesis, or a single below the knee amputation with the use of a prosthesis. And there's our young man from Greece. Now remember, below the knee is not that much of a disadvantage. Most of the power comes from the thigh, so we have a couple of men in here, the young man from Greece and the rider from the United States, Todd Key. Third place in the kilometer time trial in C1. And so C1, this is the greatest degree of disability. You do not have one of those thighs to get those pedals going around. You are pedaling completely one leg. And these guys have a round pedal stroke. If you appreciate cycling, you know that you've got to get power all the way around that stroke if possible. It is very difficult to do. It is not a natural motion. And so to make power all the way around that circle takes a lot of practice. And so a great example of a C1 athlete, number 14, Todd Key. And remember, this is a scratch race. First guy across the line wins. 60 laps, 15 kilometers. And once again, you're watching UCI's 2017 Paracycling Track World Championships, coming to you from Velosports Center and the StubHub Center of Carson, California, here in the Los Angeles Basin. 2017 Paracycling Track World Championships, C1, C2, and C3. Some of our most disabled. I'm not sure many of these athletes consider themselves disabled. It is all up to them, of course, but they get along very well on a track racing bike. And I have known a couple of paracyclists who race for training purposes, race with your quote-unquote able-bodied athletes. They go out there in local races with the local guys that have both legs, all arms, no brain trauma. And a world-class paracyclist can keep up with some pretty well-accomplished local and national level able-bodied cyclists. Now we've got a quick break here, going from the gun, and a lot of these endurance athletes really trying to get out here, leave the sprinters behind. We'll see who we have here in this first break. Remember, we had riders all over the track in C4, C5. Looks like we have number 71 of, or is that 21? Yes, of the Czech Republic, number 21, Ivo Kablasa. Third place in the kilo. He was bronze medalist in a scratch race last year. He is ranked 4th in the world in C2 track racing and 2nd in the world in C2 road racing. So there you go. There's the indication of why he is out there right now. He is a road racer, 21, Ivo Kablasa of Czech Republic. Trying to break the legs of the short distance power guys. Man from Canada out there, number 12, Ross Wilson. His world ranking coming into these World Championships 4th in C1. One of the better overall C1 track racers in the world. Winner of the 3-kilometer individual time trial. And so more riders, you know, they sound the alert. They see strong men going off the front. You want to be in on the action. They're joined by the man from the United States, number 49, Joe Berenier. Ranked number 1 in the world in C3 track racing. 2015 was the world scratch race champion in C3. There he is there. 2 legs, 1 arm. And that is C3, the degree of disability for cycling. Not as high as some of the C1 riders who are riding with 1 leg. So basically, we've got a pack split here, 3 pieces. We've got a lead group, a big chase group, and then riders getting scattered all over the track. A pretty good range of abilities out here, partially because of the degrees of disabilities. They are awarded separately, race together, awarded separately. They get to go out there and you just stay with whoever you can. And if you've got a C1 or C2 disability, try to stay with the C3 guys. And you know, it depends on training, and it also depends on age. I have seen riders' age here listed as 43. I can't remember which rider it was. We've got riders in their 40s. We have riders in their teens, and everywhere in between. Age makes a difference, but what we classify here with paracycling is the degree of disability. And everybody out here riding strong. Leaders on the track, big group coming through. Canada and the United States in the lead, number 20 and number 49. Tristan Chenove of Canada, ranked number 1 in C2 track racing and number 1 on the road. He is number 20. Silver medalist in last year's scratch race. Again, Berenier, number 49, always trying to be in on the action. We've got 1 rider retiring there, Todd Key, winner of the 3K, United States, in the C1 category. Calling it a day. In the C4-5 race, we started with, I think, 14 riders, ended up with 5, and there's our 17-year-old Greek gentleman, Nicholas Papangelis, in his first World Championships. Here at the end of a long week in which these riders have ridden short timed events, longer timed events, perhaps sprints, and the scratch race, the only mass start race in paracycling, continues to cruelly divide this pack. Some riders going down a lap now, other riders going forward. And the name of the game for some of the riders here is to hang on to the stronger riders, stay in their draft, just stay with them, everything you can do. That'll get you as far as you're going to go in this race. Just stay with those guys. Other riders out there trying to break away. Our leader coming through, the man from Canada, number 12, Ross Wilson. Ranked 4th in C1 in the world. And in C1, he won the 3,000 meter pursuit, so good endurance man there. Australia patrolling the front, and you see that sometimes all the riders go up the track and they don't always continue at top speed. Sometimes everybody wants to rest, or they do not want to put themselves in front, exposed to the full effects of wind resistance, with everybody sitting behind them using him as a wind block. So everything's just kind of cooling off right now after a flurry of activity at the beginning. Looks like that may be Berenier of the United States at the front. Australia in the mix there. That may be Andreas Zirkel, number 11, silver medalist last year in the scratch race in C1. Canada, the man from Canada, Ross Wilson, winning that 12-lap 3,000 meter time trial, a solo effort out there all by yourself, and you see what his strength is. It's just going out there and hammering away, hammer, hammer, hammer all day long. And there are some riders in here that may not have that endurance. They've got a lot of power. They've got a good sprint at the end, as long as they can take it kind of easy during the rest of the race. Those guys are the ones that do not want to see somebody like Wilson come to the front. Once Wilson puts out some energy, he needs to go back and take a rest, and he's hoping that the next guy behind him is going to go out there and keep the pace up, but it doesn't always happen that way. 38 laps to go. Australia at the front. That is number 40, David Nicholas, winner of the 3,000 meter in the C3 division. Saw a little signal there from our Canadian man. He put his right elbow out, said, "I'm leaving the front now, going up the track." He's going to go settle back down somewhere way in the back of the pack. Farther back you go, really the more draft you get. You've got a lot of bodies in front of you, but then you're out of the action if somebody attacks off the front. You've got a long ways, a lot of people to pass to get up there and chase down that breakaway attempt. Advantages and disadvantages to everything. Go back there for a great draft if you don't think anybody's going to go away with an attack. A lot of riders like to keep it just 4 or 5 guys back. Get a good draft off of people in front of you, but be in there on the action if it happens. And right now we do have action happening off the front. Looks like Ivo Koblasa of Czech Republic out there again, along with Joseph Berenier of the United States, and one of our Canadian riders, possibly Wilson again, number 12. And that is a danger when you have stars like Berenier, who won this thing in 2015. Wilson ranked 4th overall in C1 in the world. Oftentimes the response will be quick, and we still have 33 laps to go, a little bit over half the distance left in this race. The riders who are left in it still have a good responsive set of legs in general. The mind is still sharp. Once you get late into the race in an endurance event like this, the body is sending the brain signals, of course, saying, hey, slow down, you're getting tired. Well, this is a race. It's got to be mind over matter once that fatigue really starts to set in. But a lot of times you'll see one rider make an attack late in the race and other riders hesitating. It might just be for a pedal stroke or two. But it's the mind against the body. The body saying don't go. The mind says I've got to go. They have a little argument for a few seconds, and then finally you take off. You don't want to wait like that. You're either going to chase a guy immediately or you're going to let him go. But that is one of the things that happens. And the rider really has to be truthful with himself and disciplined. And now from Spain, Maurice Farr Ecartillo. And this man got 4th in the road time trial in the Rio Paralympics. And again, a road time trial, another endurance event. And so the man from Spain in the yellow and orange heading back. He's got a teammate in there, number 44, Eduardo Santos Asensio. Nice to have a teammate in there. Even one other guy that's on your side, one other rider on your side can make it possible for you to get away in a breakaway. And if you've got a teammate back in the chase, that is one less rider chasing you down. Sometimes the teams will designate a team leader either before the race or they'll decide during the race who's feeling better. And the other rider will help that team leader then. If he needs to chase somebody down, the helper goes out there and does the chasing, the work in the wind to chase down a breakaway, while the designated winner from that team will sit in and rest. We see some of the riders talking with each other. Sometimes they may say, do you want to break away together, form an instant team? It may be, hey, you're riding kind of dangerously, man. You almost squeezed me off the track back there. Watch it. And it's hard to tell exactly what guys are talking about. Sometimes if there's a hand gesture or perhaps a little bit of a hostile look on the face, you know they're not talking about something too friendly. Sometimes it's, hey, let's go out there together. Let's get away from everybody. Become instant teammates. Right now we've got a man from Spain and a man from Canada doing just that. Don't know if they discussed it ahead of time. But we've got Maurice Farr Ecartillo. So Maurice Ecart, number 22 of Spain. Tristan Chernova of Canada. And again, the pack very responsive. Highly competitive event here. Not coming apart as much as the C4, C5 event did. A pretty big cohesive pack here. 10 riders still out there all together. 15 riders started. A couple of our C1 riders have retired from the race. Riders with just one leg would have a hard time against riders who have both, or only missing a lower leg. And Canada on the attack again. These guys have been breaking legs out there. Ross Wilson, winner of the 3K in the C1. And C1, well, it doesn't seem to be bothering him a whole lot to have a greater disability rating out there. Feeling great today. And again, the chase is quick and determined, and Andreas Zirkel of Australia, or David Nicholas of Australia, one of the two chasing him down. Indeed, it was David Nicholas, winner of the 3,000 meter for C3. And he is ranked 3rd in the world. I tell you, never a dull moment out here with these guys now. One of our two Spanish riders on the attack. And that's another great thing about having a teammate. As number 22 goes out there, that is Maurice Ecartillo. He is on the attack, number 22. He's got a teammate. If Eckhard gets pulled back in, chased down by the pack, it could be that Eduardo Santos, number 44, will immediately counterattack and get this 1-2 punch. And a couple guys can work over the entire pack that way. Put everybody else on the defensive. If your teammate gets caught, no problem. You've been sitting in the pack, drafting, not helping with the chase, of course. If he gets caught, boom, you use that energy that you've saved up to launch a counterattack. The sooner the better. And that is a proactive race. 17 laps to go. We don't have that situation here. As Eckhart gets pulled back in, no counterattack from Santos Asensio, but Everybody kind of coming up for a breather. Nobody down there in the sprinters lane near the bottom of the track. Everybody up inviting somebody else to go down there and pick up the pace if they want. 20 of Canada, Chernova. Again, silver medalist last year in this event. Knows where to be. Always up there near the front, and watch those Spanish guys. We've got 2 Canadians in the race, 2 Spaniards. Now we've just got 9 that I can count, 9 riders left, including 2 Spanish riders, 2 Canadians. At last count anyway. I'll check that out again. And 1 very determined, aggressive Australian at 14 laps to go. Number 40, David Nicholas. I think Nicholas may have lost his teammate Zirkle a little while ago. I'll have to confirm that. But Nicholas off the front by himself, being chased by our Canadian friend. That is Chernova. 22 and 12. 22 for Spain, Eckhart Tio, and 12 for Canada, Ross Wilson, are out there by themselves. Trying to get back in there. Chernova looking around, checking out the action. 11 laps to go. Just like in a match sprint too, a lot of rubbernecking going on. Got to watch out what's going on behind you. A little slowdown allows 22 of Spain, Eckhart Tio, and 12 of Canada, Ross Wilson, to get back in. And look at this. Eckhart Tio comes right on through, goes right underneath, and attacks. He was in trouble 2 laps ago, and now he's at the front, spreading things out. Riders trying to get back in there. I think we've got 2 riders from Belgium in there. One of them slightly separated from the pack and now getting back in. 9 laps to go. Maurice Farr, Eckhart Tio of Spain. 4th place in the road time trial, the Rio de Janeiro Paralympics. The man's got a lot of endurance in the legs. They do not give up, and look at this, stretching things out, still at the front, perhaps trying to wear out the opposition a bit. He's got his teammate number 44 in there, Eduardo Santos Asensio. I think we have both of our Belgian riders still in there. Number 42, Diederik Schalfout, and 41, Chris Boseman. Boseman was a world road racing champion in 2012, number 41, so there's a man with a strong endurance history. Number 41, Boseman of Belgium. A man to look out for a late race solo attack. Or perhaps he's got the strength for the sprint. Canada have been at the front a lot. Tristan Chernova, number 1 ranked C2 rider in the world coming into these World Championships. Number 1 on the road as well in C2. Just 5 laps to go. Australia at the front, in the form of David Nicholas. I think Andreas Zirkle not in the race anymore. Belgians with 2 riders, Spanish with 2 riders. I think Canada still has 2 riders. Doesn't guarantee them the win. And of course, again, we've got C1, C2, and C3 in here. They will be scored and awarded separately. But all out there racing together, having a great race and just a great bunch of sportsmanship and athleticism being demonstrated by everybody out here, including one of our best road time trialists, Maurice Eckhart Tio of Spain, is still stretching things out. Both of our Belgians are at the back right now. Australia in the middle, the U.S. right behind Australia. in the form of Joseph Berigny, number 49. Berigny, the number 1 ranked C3 track rider in the world coming into these World Championships. 2 laps to go now. Your position is all important. You can have a nice draft behind somebody, but if that guy's too worn out, the sprint can get you up to the front. It's not going to do you any good. Riders look for their teammates, and right now it looks like the Belgians, the only 2 guys together, and coming down, it is Berigny. Berigny is C3 rider, going to come across the line first. Berigny, wow, what a burst of speed. And the ever-present Spaniards, Eduardo Santos Asensio, across the line in second. He is a C3 rider as well. Berigny, followed by Asensio. We'll get you the full results here in a moment, but look at this, the man with the beard. And the physiotherapy tape on the knees, keeping everything together, and I believe he has defended, well, actually come back from winning the Scratch Race World Championships in 2015 and apparently doing it again in 2017 for C3, and I believe second place was Eduardo Santos Asensio of Spain. They are both C3s. First 2 riders across the line will get you the C3, C2, and C1 events in just a little while, and Berigny being congratulated by Tristan Cherneau of Canada. And you see how things mix up and go all over the place. So much action going on as one piece of the pack goes over another piece, and sometimes you can be in the bottom or behind somebody slow, and what they call the train goes over the top. You don't want that to happen, but here, this scene right here is when Eduardo, or Maurice Eckhart-Thiel, was off the back. He caught back up, and then he just went right through the pack and attacked. Then a counterattack by Australia. And here we go, coming into the final laps. You see Berigny churning on this sprint. That is an amazing sprint, holding that bike steady with one arm over the line, and a yes. And a quick nod of the head for Joseph Berigny. He won the kilo, second in the 3K. He wins the point race. Santos Asensio, followed by David Nicholas, was third rider over the line. David Nicholas is another C3 rider. Then, fourth over the line, Tristan Chernova of Canada. Chernova is a C2 rider, so he is our first C2 rider. Followed by the Belgian, fifth rider over the line, Chris Bosman, and he is a C3 rider, so it should be third place in that division. Ivo Koblasa of Czech Republic was sixth rider over the line. And Koblasa, Ivo, number 21, he is C2, so that should give him a medal in that. Diederik Schalkhout of Belgium. And so, as we go back now to, as we leave our scratch race behind, and we'll get official versions of results and an award ceremony for them coming up shortly as we're coming near the end of the program. We are going back to a re-ride, I understand, of that very sketchy, scary bronze medal final between Malaysia and the Russian Federation. You recall the final lap, the bike underneath Leonid Tyutin and Artur Spirin was wiggling around a bit. Maybe they had a flat tire, and here's the replay. If you didn't see it earlier, a little scary moment as Malaysia's coming around. You see the Russian's bike just come out of the track, wiggling almost out of control, and then watch again. It happens again right about here. Boom. That tire not behaving properly, and so a re-ride of ride number 2. Now Malaysia, team number 6, with Rizan Muhammad Afiq Afifi driving. Rasul Muhammad Karul Abdha, our stoker. They won the first race from the front. They drew the front, and so they started lowest on the track and took the lead and maintained it the entire way. This time then, since Malaysia drew the front starting position for the first race, then the Russian Federation is automatically given the front position for the second race. And they are required just to keep the bike moving. For the early stages of the race, although Sometimes it is considered such an advantage to be behind your opponent for reasons of drafting once the speed gets high, or for reasons of being able to watch your opponent or surprise attack from the back, that the team will slow down almost to a stop to try to force their opponents in front of them. Right now, though, steady pace being maintained by Teuton and Spirin of the Russian Federation. I remember in the first attempt at this ride, at the second ride, the Malaysians were coming around the Russian Federation riders in the final turn when they had that tire problem. Looks like the Malaysians are waiting again. They had good speed coming around the Russian Federation in that final turn in the first iteration of this second ride. And so perhaps they think the same strategy will work again, of waiting until the final lap and then accelerating around the outside. You never know, though. Maybe the Russians have changed the gears. Maybe they've changed their tactics. At 1 to go, the Malaysians. All right, the Malaysians this time just jump over the top. They won the first one from the front. They won this one, it looks like, coming over the top at 1 to go. And Malaysia, unofficially, are bronze medalists in our men's blind tandem competition. 6-lap match sprint, 200-meter time. That is the time over the last 4/5 of a lap was 10.75, so very close. Again, to your 200-meter time of the first one they won, and that is way over 65 kilometers an hour. The Malaysians, Rizan Muhammad Afiq Afifi and Rasul Muhammad Karul Abdah, unofficially bronze medalists in the 2017 World Championships. And here, this is such an important move in match sprinting. When do you make your move to come over the top? Look, the Russians looking to the left. Oh, these guys are coming over our right. Oops. And over the top go the Malaysians. The Russians not responding quickly enough, and perhaps just don't have the power in the legs. Look at this, trying to hold that big bike down at 65 kilometers, 70 kilometers an hour, and the exclamation from driver Rizan Muhammad Afiq Afifi. And so they look forward to the third spot on the podium, a couple of medals. As we go now to the gold medal ride. In the men's tandem sprinting, as we had a win by each. Team number 4 for Great Britain, Neil Facky and Craig McLean. I'm going to stand corrected here on who we've got coming up. We also had a tie among the women for the bronze, and that is what we're doing first. There we go. Australia, the winner of the first try, Jessica Gallagher, last year's world champion, with a different teammate. She's now teamed up with Stephanie Prixa. Each team with a win. Second ride was won by Great Britain team number 93, Aileen McGlynn and Louise Haston. Close-up of that more conventionally metal-spoked, metal-rimmed front wheel. Both teams using that carbon fiber disc rear wheel. No turbulence, no wind drag created by spokes whirring around in there. Great Britain been using the what may be about a 40 spoke arrangement on the front wheel. Your average bike from bought from the typical bike shop or store has 36 spokes. sometimes 32 spokes. Heavy stuff, relatively heavy stuff on the tandem. A 4 or 5 spoke carbon fiber front wheel on the Australian bike. So this is the tiebreaker. Your bronze medal is on the line here, just about 4 laps from now. So at 4 laps to go, Jessica Gallagher looking back over her shoulder. Her teammate, stoker Stephanie Priekse, looking back, listening. Take it high on the track, you've got more downhill to work with. More speed to gain, but of course if your opponents behind you follow you up there, then they've got more downhill to work with as well. Can you outpower your opponents by accelerating from low on the track? Who has the advantage here? Some of these riders might have a feeling they have an advantage of one way or another over their opponents right now. Australia, though, deciding to pick it up fairly early here. Still a few laps to go. And I would think picking up fairly early like this means if they think they can reach a very high top speed, they've got a very tall gear on that bike perhaps. And Great Britain fighting back. Winner of the second ride, McGlynn and Haston coming over the top. And coming to the line, it looks like it is going to be rides number 2 and 3 to Great Britain for the bronze. 200 meter time, a 12.0. Very similar to the last race. And so, Great Britain team number 93, Aileen McGlynn, Louise Haston, World Championships bronze medalists in tandem racing. Australian Jessica Gallagher will settle for 4th with her new teammate Stephanie Priekse. And again, that power coming over the top. And the British teams are known for this ability to accelerate. And you know, you do a lot of weight training, a lot of training in the gym to get strength like this. And they just keep on going all the way, and they know they've got it. So Australia for 4th this year. Great Britain 93, number 93 McGlynn and Haston for the bronze. The gold already taken by number 95, Great Britain, Thornhill and Hall. Silver to Great Britain team 94, Allison Patrick and Helen Scott. We will see them on the podium in just a little while. Coming up on the final event, and now we have our 2 teams from Great Britain for the gold medal in the men's tandem sprints. 6 laps. Team number 4 won a race. That is Neil Faki and Craig McLean. Team number 3 won a race. James Ball with Matthew Rotherham. The winner of this one will be world champions. We'll cover that beautiful white, blue, and red Great Britain jersey with the colors of the continents. The rainbow jersey of world champions. All right, again, the final for gold, and we see on the screen a blue dot next to each team's designation. Number 4, Great Britain with a blue dot means they won. Number 3, Great Britain with a blue dot. They won the second ride. Our sighted drivers, our sighted pilots there. Big guys, accomplished elite cyclists in their own right. in a way, very slow speed. First couple laps here might be a battle of nerves too. Who can handle the suspense? Try to make your opponents nervous with this low speed. Maybe they'll lose their cool, pick up the pace, come to the front.
Yeah.
Both these teams experienced enough that cool is being maintained. Especially with the tandem bikes. It's not just the matter of acceleration or move at the right time, but the type of move and getting that momentum going and keeping it going. Both teams so far are content to wait a long time for that stage of the race. All about energy conservation. We don't see attempts by anyone to change positions relative to their opponent, to go high on the track or low on the track. And still Team 4. Team 3 just about a bike length and a half behind them.
It's not only a war of strength, it's a war of nerves.
Two-thirds of their way to go here. 4 laps remaining, come down to 3.5 remaining. Still the battle of nerves among men who have doubtlessly trained with each other, raced against each other before. Sometimes, though, when you get to the big show, mindset can change. So this battle of nerves continues at low speed, watching and waiting, like the cat and the mouse staring at each other across the room. Who's going to make that first move? Team 3 taking it nice and high on the track. High on the track. Team 4 cuts them off, so quick reactions by Team 3 pilot James Ball to go over the top. And there you go. It is when you start to gain that momentum. Team 3, Ball and Rotherham. 1 lap to go. Faki and McLean have a long ways to make up. Look at that, almost parallel to the ground through the turns. Trying to hold it down, Faki and McLean. Ball and Rotherham. It is Ball and Rotherham, team number 3, unofficially your world tandem sprint champions. 200-meter time at 10.9, not blindingly fast, but good enough. It was all in the move at a couple laps to go that did it for them. High on the track, down the track, getting a lot of speed from that big downhill run. Faki and McLean tried to shut him down there in the sprinters lane. We'll see this in just a moment. What a fantastic couple of moves by both teams. Really, here they go way up on the track, way down. They want to go to the sprinters lane, but Team 4 comes in. So Team 3 instantly around the outside. Fantastic reactions by James Ball. Turn it on, light those afterburners, as they would say in England, light the reheat. The flames coming out the back of the jet off the supersonic speed, and victory. Yes, hey mom, look what I've done. World champions, team number 3, James Ball, Matthew Rotherham of Great Britain. Silver medalists, Neil Faki and Craig McLean, Great Britain. Silver medalists. Bronze will be Malaysia. And as some of our previous recent years, great showing by the teams from Great Britain. Dominant force in Olympic and Paralympic cycling. And there really is I think, tandem sprinting is a fantastic opportunity both for elite sighted drivers, pilots of these bikes, and of course, an opportunity for blind athletes to get on that tandem and race the bikes, put out the effort, feel the little G-force through those turns. These turns are banked at 45 degrees. This track is only 250 meters around, 1/4 of a kilometer. This could fit easily inside a running track. And a football pitch would go well beyond the perimeters of this facility, and they're going 70 plus kilometers per hour very often on it. Siberian pine hardwood, built in 2003. 2003, replaced the 1984 Olympic concrete track, which was only a couple of kilometers from here. They tore that down to make way for a large football stadium. And by contract, by tearing down Winter Velodrome, they had to build a new one. And the International Cyclists Union, the UCI, said, hey, you want to build a new track? That's cool. If you make it a 250 indoor, we can race in the winter, and you can have world championships here. We did have the junior, that is high school age group, world championships here in 2004, and the elite world championships here in 2005. We've hosted 5 elite World Cups here, and now paracycling world championships right here at StubHub Center in LA Velo. And there are new world champions. Team number 3, Great Britain, James Ball, our pilot, Matthew Rotherham, our stoker, and we see the flags being arranged here, about to go up for the award ceremonies. And with a Brazilian flag here. A Malaysian flag, no, Brazilian flag. Let's see, the award ceremonies will probably be going in the order of other events, so we'll take a look and see which award ceremony will be coming up first. This may be getting set up for the scratch race. We've got team time trials out here, and of course, a whole day of fantastic tandem sprinting right here at these 2017 UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. And we will be interviewing, meeting up close and personal, some of our world champions out here today, so stay with us as we hear from the champions themselves, and we are able to present the awards to our top 3. Great Britain and the United States both winning some events out here. The C3 scratch race won by American Joseph Berenier. Of course, Great Britain dominating tandem sprinting, and hey, it's time to pack up and go. Cape Town, South Africa. Cape Town, the only indoor velodrome in South Africa, and from Los Angeles, that is to the other side of the planet. You can go around over the east coast of the United States through London to get to Cape Town, or you can go west out over the Pacific to get to Cape Town. It is about the same distance. The only thing farther away from here than Cape Town, South Africa, is Antarctica. These guys came a long ways. Johan Aldenhall, I don't think we saw him race today, but he traveled, even in this jet age, a couple of days to get here to these 2017 Paracycling Track World Championships. The award ceremony's about to start. All right, our Team Sprint Award ceremony is coming up shortly. We won't get an interview with the champions there, but we will with some of the other events. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention for the award ceremony of the UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. The medals and the jersey will be presented by Mr. Mohamed Ben El Mahi, UCI Management Committee member and President of the Paracycling Commission at the UCI. This is the men's C4-5 scratch race podium. In third place and winner of the bronze medal from Brazil, Lauro Chaman. In second place, winner of the silver medal, representing Australia, Alistair Donohoe. In first place, gold medalist and world champion, representing Great Britain, Jonathan Gilday. Presenting the flowers will be Mr. Chris Ehrenholt, Managing Partner of Medalist Sports. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of the world champion, let's raise the flags and hear the national anthem of Great Britain. Once again, everybody, please put your hands together for our top three gentlemen of the day.
All right, our newest world champion signing some jerseys here, and with our world champion is Louis Barbeau.
Jonathan, congratulations on the well-deserved result. 2 world titles this week, finishing with a world title in the scratch race last year, finishing second. Can you tell us about the race? It was extremely fast from the very beginning.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of early moves. I was originally sort of planning to kind of wait, let the race settle down, but I saw an opportunity to go, and then well, with the Chaman, the Brazilian, with me, I knew that we were probably in a good move there, really, because he's very strong. So we ended up sort of half a lap up for a long while with everybody chasing back on there. So it was a bit of a war of attrition. I could see the bunch was getting smaller and smaller, and the race was sort of dwindling, really. Chaman got a bit of a gap on me, but I knew that there was a small group coming over as well. So, and I mean, luckily for me, when Donahoe came across as well, I was able to work with Donahoe. Metelka was a lap down, and he was in the way a little bit, but you know, we got back on terms, and the end was a bit of a mess, really. I managed to come past Donahoe, which was good, but Metelka was in the sprint, even though he was a lap down, and Chaman apparently cut down the track, so it was a bit of an odd ending, really. But a hard race. I like it when it's hard. You know, when everybody's suffering, it's that's what I prefer, really.
Congratulations, very well raced.
Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
A bit of a controversy.
Yeah.
And our results again for C4, C5 scratch race, Jonathan Gilday, our world champion of Great Britain. Alistair Donahoe of Australia, silver medalist. Lauro Cesar Chaman of Brazil, our bronze medalist. Team sprint now coming on to the podium.
The medals for this event and the jerseys will be presented by Mr. Mohamed Ben Mahdi, UCI Management Committee member and President of the Paracycling Commission. This is the award ceremony for the men's C1 through C5 mixed team sprint. In third place and representing Russia, Sergei Batukov, Sergei Pudov, and Alexei Obidinov. In second place and winners of the silver medal, Team Spain, Amador Granados Alcorta, Eduardo Santos Asensio, and Pablo Yaramillo Gallardo. In first place, gold medalists and world champions, Team United States of America, Jason Kimball, Joseph Barony, and Christopher Murphy. to present the flowers, Mr. Chris Aaronholt, Managing Partner of Medalist Sports. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of our world champions, let's raise the flags and hear the national anthem of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our top 3 teams of the day. And coming up very soon, our next award ceremony. Don't go away. Just let our gentlemen make their way over to our interview, TV interview.
All right, so we've got the United States in first in our mixed team sprint victories. United States with gold, Spain in silver, the Russian Federation for the bronze. We call this mixed team sprint, as there should be a variety of riders according to their category of disability, from C5 down to C1. And a certain amount of ability is allowed on the line for each team. So just the proper combination to have a strong team, but fair for the competition. The U.S. comes out on top. And we'll continue our award ceremonies now with a scratch race. C1 through C3 should be coming up next. And again, we will be listening to our public address announcer, Randall Ferguson. I'd like to thank the staff of StubHub Center and our LA Velo Center for hosting these 2017 Paracycling Track World Championships. And of course, a host of officials from the United States and around the world, making sure everything is safe and fair here. The staff of our sports center here as well. Volunteers, everybody from the people who keep the staff fed and watered all day long throughout the week, to those who are running the timing systems. And it all comes down to enabling these guys to win world championships, or to compete at their best, to say the least. Huge efforts it takes from staff, volunteers, people traveling from all over the world, not only to compete, but to coach our riders, to officiate the event. And we prepare now for Scratch Race C1 through 3 medal ceremonies.
So, coming up in a moment with our next award ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention for the award ceremony of the UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. The medals and jersey will be presented by Mr. Mohamed Ben El Mahi, UCI Management Committee member and President of the Paracycling Commission. This is the award ceremony for the Scratch Race Men's C1, 2, and 3. In third place and winner of the bronze medal from Australia, David Nicholas. In the second place, winner of the silver medal from Spain, Eduardo Santos Asensio. In first place, gold medalist and world champion from the United States of America, Joseph Barony. To present the flowers, Mr. Chris Aronholt, Managing Partner of Medalist Sports. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of our world champion, let's raise the flags and hear the national anthem of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our top 3 men of the day. I'm just going to go to a short interview with our winner of the day and then be back with our next award ceremony in the women's tandem events.
Once again, Joseph Bernier adds to a slew of medals that he's won over the years, adding to that the C1, C3 scratch race. And you saw that final lap sprint that he had, just amazing. He came around several riders, a lot of speed. He knew he had it with a few meters to go. And now over with our own Louis Barbeau.
Joe Bernier, 4 medals at these World Championships, including 3 world titles. The latest one, the scratch race. Last year you finished 8th at the Worlds in Monte Carlo in that event. How important was that race for you and comparing with the other titles?
The team sprint was most important, which we did beforehand. And after winning that, I focused as much as I could on racing smart and using the banking. So I was second first year we held scratch race, and I was kind of disappointed last year just the way things played out. So it's great. So I've won a world title in all 4 of our events. Hard work's paid off our program. I'm super excited.
So hopefully that event will be included in the Tokyo program. How did you prepare for that race specifically? Did you do a lot of criteriums?
Yeah, so before I got into paracycling, I was basically a criterium racer. So it kind of came natural. Kind of not done too many since I got more into track. So I do scratch races. Well, we have it at our national program, and so I won that too. So it was a good prep.
Congratulations and best luck for the road season that's coming up.
Okay, thank you, Louis.
Joseph Bernier saying hi to his mom, and you heard him saying there that he was well prepared for mass start racing on the track, racing with 13, 14 other athletes here by racing criteriums. And that is most likely with able-bodied athletes, a short course road races around a few city blocks. And those take place locally across the United States. It is really an American brand of racing and a great way to prepare for a scratch race. And up next, women's sprint victory ceremony. So here at the UCI 2017 Paracycling Track World Championships, more awards coming up now. The tandems, the women.
May we have your attention for the award ceremony of the UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. The medals and the jerseys will be presented by Mr. Mohamed Ben El Mahi. UCI Management Committee member, President of the Paracycling Commission. This is the women's tandem sprint podium. In third place, and winners of the bronze medal, representing Great Britain, Aileen McGlynn and Louise Hostin. In second place, and winners of the silver medal, representing Great Britain, Alison Patrick and Helen Scott. In first place, gold medalist and world champions, representing Great Britain, Sophie Thornhill and Corrine Hall. Presenting the flowers will be Mr. Chris Arnholt, managing partner of Medalist Sports. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of our world champions, let's raise the flags and hear the national anthem of Great Britain. Please put your hands together one more time for our top three teams of the day.
And once again, Great Britain sweeping the podium in women's tandem sprints. Team number 95 with our gold medal, 94 and 93. And of course, only one of them can wear the rainbow jersey of the world champion. And that is Sophie Thornhill and Corrina Hall. Silver medalist again, number 94, Alison Patrick and Helen Scott. And for the bronze was Great Britain team number 93, Aileen McGlynn and Louise Haston. Thornhill and Hall going over to sign the jerseys, and shortly they will be speaking with the UCI's Louis Barbeau.
Okay. I'm with Sophie Thornhill and Corinne Hall. Congratulations. Total domination on part of Great Britain in the women's tandem sprint. This is a new combination. From my understanding, Corinne is a new pilot for you, Sophie. How much of an adaptation is that?
It's hard, we've only had 7 weeks together on the bike, but Corinne's a great pilot. She's Paralympic champion in her own right, so it's good for me to have a strong pilot on the front. So I've done quite well.
Corinne, for you, if you can talk to us about the communication on the tandem sprint with the tactics. How important is that?
We chat through it beforehand, but when it comes to actually being out on the track, we don't necessarily talk. There's a couple of little movements we do on the bike to but Sophie's very good. She's very responsive to whatever I do, so it works really well.
Given the successes that you've had, can we expect that this combination remain for the next year or so?
To be perfectly honest, we don't know.
That's up to the coaches.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right, well, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
And as we approach the conclusion of these 2017 Paracycling World Track Championships, looking for our men tandem sprints now. Their victory ceremony coming up in just a moment. And again, speeds of over 70 kilometers an hour reached out here by these gentlemen today. And a great combination of riders from Russia, Malaysia, and Great Britain making the finals.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention for the awards ceremony of the UCI Paracycling Track World Championships. The medals and the jerseys will be presented by Mr. Mohamed Ben El Mahi, UCI Management Committee member, President of the Paracycling Commission. This is the award ceremony for the men's tandem sprint. In third place and winners of the bronze medal, representing Malaysia, Muhammad Kirud Adaha Razol and Muhammad Afifi Rizan. In second place, and winners of the silver medal, Neil Fatchy and Craig McLean from Great Britain. In first place, gold medalists and world champions representing Great Britain, James Ball and Matthew Rotherham. The flowers will be presented by Mr. Chris Arenholt, Managing Partner of Medalist Sports. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of the world champions, let's raise the flag and hear the national anthem of Great Britain. Ladies and gentlemen, please, one more time, put your hands together for our champions here this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 2017 UCI Paracycling Track World Championships here in Los Angeles, California, United States. Thank you all for being here once again. A big thank you to our volunteers, to our organizing committee, to the commissaires, the people from the UCI. And
so our riders from Malaysia congratulating the riders from Great Britain and vice versa. Very strong showing again, especially in tandem sprint by the riders from Great Britain. And our newest world champions will be with Louis Barbeau for an interview here in just a moment.
With James Ball and Matthew Rotherham, second world title this week. James last year, third in the sprint at the World Championships. But with Craig McLean, this time with a new pilot. How much of a difference is the fact of going with a new pilot? Can you tell us about it?
We haven't actually had that long together, which is quite surprising to do this out here. We've only actually been working together since the middle of January. But yeah, I was training with Craig all out of Rio and stuff. So, but after that, yeah, I just came with Matt then in the new year. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that we can keep going.
Matthew, you're fairly new to the program in paracycling. This is your first experience. Obviously, there's a lot of tactics involved in sprinting. The fact that you went ahead with another GB team, you seem to be able in the last race to surprise them. Can you tell us a bit about it and how much of the tactics, how is it different than with able body?
Yeah, well, you know, we obviously seen what each other's doing in the pen, and you know, we kind of noticed that in that race they were keeping it really slow and steady. They you know, had a hard day, so they wanted to keep it nice and slow and make it a last-minute sprint. So we kind of we said before, like 2 laps to go would be our moment, but yeah, it was totally necessary at that point to put the foot down and go. And yeah, you know, it came to 2 to go. They were still wanting to keep it slow, and we just took advantage and yeah, went for the win.
Is it additional or less pressure going against one of your teammates for the gold medal?
So much more pressure.
Well done again. Congratulations.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
World champions Ball and Rotherham being congratulated and interviewed by our own Louis Barbeau. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this webcast of the final session of the 2017 UCI Paracycling Track World Championships right here at the Velo Sports Center in Carson, California. Great action, safe, good racing. The road season starts next. Follow it with the UCI. Goodbye.